councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Okay, welcome back everyone. Anonymous Bites back. It's Saturday for me. It's for many in America. It's still Friday, but for me it's already 2 hours and 37 minutes into Julian Assange's birthday. And the whole week it's been Assange week. A lot of stuff happened. We had a witness admitting pretty much the whole story was fake. So we're going to have an Assange special. And of course we need the experts in. We have Andrew Sigmund in, from the creator of Acting for Assange, co-creator, right? And we're going to talk about Julian Assange and everything that's happening surrounding that. And if you guys are listening to this, please help us share this around, because you guys know that whenever there's like a big event surrounding Assange, for some reason we all get shadow banned, and they're doing whatever they can to have our voice, a specific voice, anonymous voice, toned down a little. So we need you guys. Hello, Andrew. Welcome back on the show. Anyway.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being invited back on. I always love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, it's been a while, right? I mean, how long is it ago? What's it been like?
I think the last time, it was when I was in DC with Steve at one point, so it may either been, I think it was January when we were there for the trial, around the January 4th time. So I think it was sometime around then when we hung out last.
Oh yeah, there was around that big event that these people were like trying to take over Washington, right? Like Capitol Hill thing, too.
Yeah, the make-believe insurrection.
Yeah.
The finger quotations, you just couldn't see them.
The insurrection where they walked through velvet ropes.
Right,
Yeah.
where there was more police for Medicare for All protesters than there was for, like, that big-ass crowd initially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, so Julian's dad, John Shipton, and his brother Gabriel Shipton, had been touring across the country, and they just wrapped up yesterday with the final leg of what they were calling the Home Run for Assange tour. And they actually on their website have, or on AssangeDefense.org/tour or homerunforjulian.com. They have a list where you can go through and see all the videos and different interviews in all the different cities. But it was tons of stops: Miami, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, the first time in DC, Columbus, Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Denver, Oakland, Los Angeles, first time in DC, 2 different rallies in Washington, DC. So that was super cool. I got to meet them at the Columbus event, which was like this huge honor. I was just telling you guys beforehand about it, but it was super 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 fun to be able to organize and be able to meet them in person and speak in front of them. It was I mean, it was an honor more than anything, but it was a huge thing for them to do, these men to take this trip across the country in such a fearless way and then end it outside of the Department of Justice.
Yeah, and his dad, like he always reminds me so much of him, right? The voice and the character, and like it's just so interesting to hear him speak. It's very intelligent man. I don't know his brother so well, but his dad is yeah. That's a real activist who's been like fighting for Assange everywhere around the world. He's always there when there's a protest, when there's an event. He will speak out.
Yeah, and then there's still events that are happening across the country tomorrow, specifically for Julian's birthday. Big shout out to the Denver crew, if you're in Denver, Colorado. I think they're DNVER Free Assange, and then Steve and the LA crew are going to be out the 3rd as well.
Ooh.
So that's
Yep.
super exciting. I did forget to mention that at Jimmy Dore, and I apologize about not mentioning that event to Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Aw. It's alright. Don't want to disclose too much, but Jimmy Dore may be coming to the LA event.
Oh, snap. That would be sick.
And let's just say he was made aware of the event 100%. So, yeah.
Well, fuck yeah, that's cool. That's cool as fuck.
Yeah. That event's gonna be at that's gonna be 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. It's gonna be at Echo Park Lake, and it's gonna be on the side that has Park Avenue, and that's where you'll see like all the grills and stuff, because obviously Pasta and them will be grilling, and me and a couple others will be yelling, and we'll have a good time and rally for Julian's 50th, which he is being spent in Hellmarsh Prison. And then I think there's also I don't know what the update, if the number's updated at all since last night. According to the Candles for Assange Twitter, there's also actions happening in 53 cities across 20 countries.
I got it pulled up as of the 25th. Let me see if I can find, if you want me to read through them. I don't mind trying to hammer that out.
Yeah, if you guys can do it real quick, I'm just sharing the episode. So
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Alex Hills is what is tantamount, I guess, to a global organizer, in a way, for the Free Assange community. Back in 2018, she held her own event that she called Candles for Assange, which was like her and her New Zealand crew went outside of Parliament and wrote Free Assange candles, and on like the lawn of Parliament, and it became like this big thing for Julian's birthday. So fast forward to 2019. She started doing Candles for Assange events for Julian's birthday, and I believe that there was, she says, close to like 55, maybe a little bit more events across the world, specifically for January 3rd, or July, I'm terrible, July 3rd. I've been doing that all day. I did that on the stream I did just before this. It's fucked. I don't know. I'm just exhausted, but so she's been doing a great job. In 2020, there was less, just because it was 2020 and the whole world was dying, apparently. But now, yeah, they're back to almost where they were before pre-pandemic level, and I'm sure that there's more events that we don't know about that would put us over. Because there's two other groups. So Candles for Assange will do any event in the world. And then there's freeassange.eu. You can find them on Twitter as well as their website. And they organize specifically for Europe, mostly Germany, because they have so many regular events there. So if you're a local supporter in Europe that's looking for a place to go out to, go to freeassange.eu as well if you can't find anything on the Candles for Assange site. And then I have to find there's one that's more specific to like Australians and New Zealanders. but can be used internationally. It's just like a decentralized platform put together by Ian Rose. So I'm going to see if I can't find that one to give the link a shout out. But yeah, I would just say if you can, even if it's you don't have a local event listed, here in the United States, we have Freedom Day on July 4th, Independence Day, 4th of July, right? And so Julian was born on July 3rd, and then Freedom was born the day after. Like, I don't think it's a big coincidence. But the thing that happened is cities planned birthday parties for Julian without knowing it. And we call them 4th of July celebrations, and they're taking place all of this weekend. And a lot of people are off of work and will be attending them because they've been locked in their houses for close to 18 months now. So what I recommend for people to do is go out with flyers. You can get some from Somerset Bean's website. You can make your own. But go out with flyers to local events that your community's holding and just pass them out. I also recommend a rolling cooler with water bottles because it's hot in most places right now. So handing somebody a water bottle and a piece of paper, you usually get to capture their attention for 2 to 3 minutes. So it's just a really good way to spread the word locally because that's where the change really matters, like informing actual real people as opposed to always fighting online.
Yeah, and there's some cool events on here too. I saw the other day that there was going to be something in Poland. There's something happening 10 a.m. in Athens on July 3rd. There's also Vilnius, if I said that right, in Lithuania. Okay. It's happening at 11 a.m. their time on the 3rd. London, as always. Lisbon, Portugal, nice. That's happening at 10 a.m. their time if you're in Lisbon. Yeah. I'm just scrolling through the list right now and picking out names I see interesting. Vienna, solid.
What was the how many
Rio.
countries? Because on April 11th, Alex was able to collect, because she doesn't organize the events particularly, she just puts them together and shares them. And I think it was something like 55 or 56 events in 36 countries on 5 continents, something like that.
Yeah, it's
I
definitely
think we
growing.
have one in Asia or Antarctica.
I think when we mentioned it like yesterday or
Yeah.
something, or the day before, there were only like 51. So it's like new events pop up every few days.
So
No, I
if
think it
you're
came
local,
really good.
please consider like starting your local Assange group this weekend because it's a great time. Just going out, passing out flyers, and I guarantee you'll get some other people that are like, "Yeah, I'll do that with you."
I think I agree. People need to get off the internet and stop keyboard warring it up and get out there and actually go do things.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff that exists out there.
Yeah, well, and people have to realize it's not just about Julian Assange, about all of them, right? And it matters that they actually take action now. I mean,
This is about freedom.
yeah.
One of our
Yeah.
many freedoms that we have. Most people see freedom as one thing. No, freedom is a multi-part spectrum of things, actually. And they just deplete it little by little.
Oh, I have and I looked through the Clover's account again. It looks like 54 cities in 21 countries now.
Heck yeah.
There's rumors of another action in Brazil. Waiting on more details from an Indian organizer. And, a Dutch organizer.
Oh, yeah.
Assange, Netherlands.
Yeah, there will always be an event in Amsterdam. It's a very active crew. So,
I
yeah.
wonder who orchestrated that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get her in this probably this weekend to discuss it. Yeah, like I mean, there should be more events all over Europe. Of course, every European country should have its own event because, like, literally, this is affecting all of us. And I was happy to see that in the Italian parliament now Italian politicians spoke out in favor of Assange. Lots of them. And they held up the Free Assange flyers pretty much in Parliament. And
Yeah, that was awesome.
yeah, Italy is not a small country at all. It's a big country with a big population, and it's very influential in the European Union. And it would really help if the European Union would make like a stand to defend press freedom for
He's
once.
not going to do that.
No, they're not going to do that. It would be nice if they would do that for once, right?
Well, you know, lovers, you wish in one hand and piss in the other. You wish anything would get fuller.
Yeah.
Well, so Germany is lit the fuck up. Like, I love what's happening in Germany. They have more regular events than any other country in the world, really. And by regular, I mean like weekly. Like, they have people turning out in regular public spaces on a constant basis across the country right now. So I think that that's fucking awesome. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things right now is seeing, like, what countries actually give a fuck and what countries don't.
Well, I know in Germany they had the Save the Internet movement, and like in 2019 became really big during like a Stop ACTA 2, and had over 200,000 people in the streets back then for a free and open internet. And it was funny for me to see, or interesting to see, that when I was in London in September, that people like wearing these Guantanamo suits. One of them actually, I spoke with him, and he said like, yeah,
Wait.
I'm
What's a
from-
Guantanamo suit?
yeah, these orange suits for Guantanamo prisoners. They have these orange suits, and
Oh, okay.
they were doing like a protest to speak out for Assange, and yeah. So, and I spoke with one of them, and he said like, yeah, I'm actually from Germany, from Save the Internet, right? And they came all the way from Germany to London, and they are very supportive of the whole situation, and because of it, obviously this is affecting a free and open internet. This is affecting them, so this movement is going to be on board, and that's, yeah, you have huge protests in Germany because of it. I hope it only gets bigger.
I'm probably one of the only people that has like 4 orange jumpsuits just on hand in the back of their car. Because you never really unpack when you have to drive everywhere all the time, so I just have it like stored nicely in my trunk. So it's fun. Like I have just
Nicely.
I have like human detention zip ties just hanging out back there. I was gonna go. So I'm in the. I live in the county where Donald Trump had his first event coming back. Like he came to Lorraine County Fairgrounds and gave some like subpar speech endorsing some congressional candidate or something. And I got to go to that, and I was one of the things I was thinking about doing was taking those orange jumpsuits and getting blow-up dolls and putting blow-up dolls and Gitmo poses all around the fair parking lot, but I didn't know if that would be like too much because I wasn't trying to get like an ATF like visit.
There's no such thing
So I
as
ended
too
up doing postering instead, but that's a very real thing. The orange jumpsuits, because Guantanamo Bay was literally one of the most disgusting places that we know about maintained by the U.S. Empire for the way that they treat prisoners.
Fuck.
Yeah, and I think the Guantanamo shouldn't even exist if you take human rights law into account. And that's the same situation like what we're dealing in Belmarsh. It should be impossible that Julian Assange right now is still locked up there. It is, for one, he's a journalist, right? And secondly, he won the extradition court case, and the Americans appealed. But in the meantime, he shouldn't be locked up in a high security prison at this point.
Yeah, and he hasn't got to meet with his lawyers confidentially in 6 months, according to Craig Murray's articles, which is heinous because the time between, I believe it was the trials in January of 2020 till September, he didn't get a chance to meet with his lawyers in preparation for his own trial. He was given I don't even know the necessary time frame of it, but he was given a keyboard with the keys glued down, as a means to try to prepare for his defense. So it's like, even just the ways that the trial's been conducted, like there's been a million things that should have happened to get this trial thrown out. Like you have the UC Global case, which is the hopefully dead Zionist billionaire Sheldon Adelson, working hand in hand with private intelligence owner David Morales of UC Global, to facilitate the CIA being able to oversee, observe, and coordinate all of the security measures for the Ecuadorian embassy when Julian was there, including like wiretapping the women's restroom. They had, I think it's dystopian. I don't know what other word to use for it, but they had installed recording equipment throughout the entire embassy. Essentially, like most of the rooms of the embassy had bugs or cameras or what have you. And this was something that Julian was like paranoid about. So he went and got a white noise machine, or I don't know how you get a white noise machine, but procured, built something, to counteract the recording surveillance, so that way he could have confidential meetings. And then UC Global stepped up and installed laser microphones on the windows of the Ecuadorian embassy with stickers, to be able to monitor the conversations that were happening inside from across the street, through the vibrations in the glass, which the white noise machine didn't cause to vibrate. So just like the levels that the security company went to observe Julian were just absolutely heinous. And then there's a gentleman by the name of Craig Murray, who's a former diplomat for Ireland, I believe, and he was a journalist that had been reporting on Julian's case. He got to go with the family into the courtroom, and he was set to testify in Julian's trial, against the UC Global and against the Spanish trial against David Morales and UC Global for violating Julian's privacy.
He's a Scottish politician, by the way, not Irish, but it's close enough.
Scottish, sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm bad with countries over there. But Scottish. And so he was set to actually go because he had visited Julian in the embassy. He had experienced the surveillance by UC Global and the way that the guards handled it. It had been described by some people as like a digital strip search, where they would literally take your device and copy it to be able to literally take all of everything that's on there, and be able to run it through, and view it separately and privately in their own time. So he was actually set to go testify against UC Global as a witness to that, and the British court system blocked it by holding him in, by finding him guilty and placing him under appeal for what they called jigsawing. Basically, as a reporter, they're accusing him of revealing evidence that showed who a witness was in a court trial, in a very high-level court trial, which was also a string-up, but that's a whole different story. It's Alex Salmond. But so they used that case to block Craig Murray, a Scottish diplomat, from going to Spain to testify in the UC Global trial, and literally have threatened him with 8 months in prison. And this is, I believe, a man pushing 60 that has a young child with his wife. So it's just incredible the levels that UC Global and his private intelligence company were going through. And then Vanessa Baratzer, the judge ruling over Julian's trial, says, like, well, Julian was handling national security information. Like, of course the CIA was going to spy on him. Like, there's no way that would weigh in the U.S.'s court case.
Yeah, so that's where she used the CNN article.
Yeah, and she pulled in a CNN article about Julian turning the Ecuadorian embassy into a spying operation in 2016, like at the height of Russiagate. That's when this article was written, and it's obviously debunkable if you know anything about Russiagate. So not only is Julian's case threatening press freedom, you literally have a British judge saying, like, no, it's cool that the government's spying on somebody because they were doing journalism. Like, that can in no way impact the outcome of this trial. And so that's one of the things that this case should be thrown out for just on its face, let alone the fact that it shouldn't even be happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Lori. You want to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna
No.
say you covered a lot of the bases there, Andrew. I mean, there's so many instances in the course of this prosecution of Assange that all separately could have led to his entire case being thrown out. But because the empire needs to gain international jurisdiction over journalism, and because they need to severely handicap our press freedom even further, then they're going to continue with an obviously bullshit case in the kind of legal senses of it.
Yeah, so have you guys gone over anything about the Siggy teenager accusations yet?
See, and that's actually something I just wanted to ask you, because and because that adds to it, right? We have a witness they were going to use against him, and he pretty much admitted that the whole story was made up. Want to go into
Yeah,
that?
so yeah, I can find the article. I don't have it like immediately on hand. I'll put it in somewhere once I pull it up. But I have a little excerpt from it. But the key things, the big portions of this, are that this witness, Seeger Thornton, he went by Siggy or by Teenager, was like a hardcore FBI informant. Um, it reads, a major witness in the United States Department of Justice case against Julian Assange has admitted to fabricating key accusations in an indictment against the WikiLeaks founder. The witness, who has a documented history of sociopathy and has a record of several convictions for sexual assault of minors and wide-ranging financial fraud, made an admission in a newly published interview where he also confessed to his continued crime spree whilst working for the Justice Department and the FBI, receiving promises of immunity from prosecution. The man in question, Seeger Thornton, or Teenager, was recruited by U.S. authorities to build a case against Julian Assange after misleading them to believe that he was previously a close associate of his. In fact, he volunteered on a limited basis to raise money for WikiLeaks, and in 2010 was found to have used this opportunity to embezzle more than $50,000 from the organization. Julian Assange visited Thordarson's country home in Iceland around the time due to his work with the Icelandic media and members of the parliament in preparing for the Icelandic Modernization Initiative, a press freedom project that produced a parliamentary resolution supporting whistleblowers and investigative journalism. So, Seeger Thornton, in some ways, I guess, is a masterclass troll. In some ways, is obviously a demonstrable piece of shit human being. But he literally talked himself up to the FBI, selling himself as like Julian's like right-hand person, like a student or like an apprentice or something like that. And then this kid went across the internet and essentially lied, trying to build a network to set Julian up to be able to put to be able to put criminal fraud and abuse act charges against Julian as a hacker. So the key thing with this is that, and they call it NATO Country 1 in the indictment, is that Seeger, Teenager had said that Julian had helped him decrypt a stolen file from an Icelandic bank. And it reads, on July 1st, 2010, after Assange and Teenager failed in their joint attempt to decrypt a file from a stolen NATO country 1 or Iceland bank. Teenager asked a U.S. person to try to do so. In 2011 and 2012, that individual had been acquitted of had been an acquaintance of Manning since 2010. Became a paid employee of WikiLeaks, and reported to Assange and Teenager. No later than the summer of 2010, Assange put Teenager in charge of operating, administering, and monitoring the WikiLeaks IRC chat, because the WikiLeaks IRC channel was open to the public. Assange regarded it as both a means of contacting news sources and a potential den of spies. In September 2010, Assange directed, and this is according to Teenager, Assange directed Teenager to hack into a computer of an individual formerly associated with WikiLeaks and delete chat logs containing statements of Assange. When Teenager asked how that could be done, Assange wrote that the former WikiLeaks associate could be fooled into downloading a Trojan, referring to a malicious software.
Yeah, and so what changed in this statement?
In December 2010, there was a hacker who they say was affiliated with Anonymous, I don't know, but was also supposedly a member of the group Gnosis, contacted Teenager. Subsequently, that person introduced Teenager to other members of the group Gnosis, who went by the online handle Kayla. Teenager told the first person, I can't pronounce the name, I think it's like Laurel, that Teenager, was in charge of recruitment for WikiLeaks, and stated that he was under Julian's authority and reported to him and him alone. So this kid literally paraded himself across the internet as being something that he absolutely wasn't.
Yeah,
and to try to string people up.
Yeah, and
that's where the whole body of this comes in.
Yeah, and he claimed that he had so this was the story, that he at first claimed that he was instructed by Assange to do these things, right? And now the story changes, and he says that he admits that Assange never asked him to hack or access phone recordings. I'm taking this from the Stundin article, right? And that his new claim is that he had in fact received it from a third party, right? And that it was not Assange at all who did anything like that. That's pretty much the crucial thing.
Yeah, and that's massive, and that's major. And that's the thing that essentially, in this moment, the indictment against Julian hinges on, at least for the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act charges, as they're written now, because that was one of the ones that actually wasn't really addressed in court, the inclusion of this, because what they did to Julian, when they first arrested him, there was, I don't remember the exact number of charges, but it wasn't under the full array of the 17 Espionage Act and the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act charge. And once he had been in prison before the 2-month period had ended, they released the additional indictments, which is generally referred to as the second indictment against Julian. And all the time, the U.S. is claiming that they're just expanding the scope, that it's the same charges, they're just introducing new language into why it should happen. And then this set of charges that's being discussed by Teenager and Stundin that are being blown apart are what's considered the third indictment. It was something that unofficially came out in June of 2020, but Julian was actually rearrested on the first day of his trials in September under these new expanded indictment charges, which not only included conversation and language about Teenager, but this part of the indictment actually ends, and then it picks up with language about essentially bridging into the era of the global intelligence files and Jeremy Hammond, and essentially the Creation of Laws Act. And how that was basically an FBI operation that was built off of the back of a separate FBI operation, which was Siggy's. Not that everyone involved in it was, but that the head of it, Sabu, was one of these other FBI informants that was just acting to essentially stitch up hackers like Jeremy Hammond.
Oh,
Fuck
shot.
Hector.
Yeah, so this is super powerful that this is released now, and
Yeah.
interesting. It happens, this last week, like the Assange week, and now leading up to his birthday. It is pretty much the best thing that could happen for him right now. It throws.
I have a comment that I'd like to add about the story. The kid said that they were attempting to decrypt it. By the way, that's not something that someone that knows how to use a computer would really do. You'd need a mathematician for that. You'd crack it. So he actually has no idea what he's talking about. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, this kid was literally just like a piece of shit troll.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. So, like, why didn't anyone ever listen to him at all? I mean, Assange is not really a mathematician, is he? So he wouldn't be trying to decrypt something. If anything, he'd be cracking. It's just a big difference.
Well, Assange is actually a physicist himself. Like, he went
Oh, is he really?
to school for that in Australia right out of high school.
That's I don't really find that would be very helpful when it comes to decrypting things. So
Yeah. But like, just to continue with the indictment a little bit more, because you can, I don't know if anyone read it, because we read it on air, like on the Free Assange Vigil, the indictment against Roger Stones and the evidence about Guccifer 2 and the conversations between Guccifer 2 and WikiLeaks, supposedly Julian, even though they can't inherently prove who was running that account. The conversation was literally structured in what I would imagine to be the same way, just by that Siggy would have been having with the WikiLeaks group that the Guccifer 2 account was having with the WikiLeaks group. And you can kind of see it in the way that this is built here, where you have a teenager trying to essentially catch up Assange by sending him certain things. In January 2011, teenager told Assange that a group of hackers offered their services to us, and they called themselves Gnosis. Supposedly, Assange approved of the arrangement and told teenager to meet Gnosis. February 6, 2011, L'Oreal told Kayla that they should show to teenager materials that Kayla had obtained from hacking a U.S. cybersecurity company. I'm not sure what company that is, so I can't say for a fact. I'm sure I can find it in a couple searches, but I don't know for 100%. And then February 7th, 2011, teenager messaged Assange that Gnosis had hacked the U.S. cybersecurity company. February 11th, 2017, teenager provided Assange with computer code that Kayla had hacked from the U.S. cybersecurity company, and told Assange that it came from the Gnosis hack of that company. And so just to frame this out, essentially what Siggy was trying to do here, and this is a good thing just for people to learn in general, like if you want to try to be someone that's running a media company or a public disclosure organization or what have you, in the way that this works, because these sources, these people that were trying to communicate with Julian, were essentially trying to get him to do and admit and to say things that would get him caught up, literally by trying to teenager selling himself as a hacker, and going to these communities and trying to get them to say that they're doing things in the name of WikiLeaks and stuff like that, as a way to almost force interaction with them. And then provide the way Assange was provided documents is very similar to the way Guccifer 2 did it, where what Julian did in that situation was he literally was essentially trolling them about the quality of their data set and how the documents weren't verifiable enough to be worked with, and that they would need more information.
Kayla later became known for being involved in the hack of HB Gary, right? So the company you're mentioning is HB Gary.
Okay, HB Gary. Cool. I think they were at the time one of the top 5, if not still the top 5, private intelligence contractors. They're up there with like Booz Allen Hamilton and such.
Well, interesting information was found there on the systems of H.B. Gary, because there were discussions between H.B. Gary and Palantir where they were literally planning to discredit WikiLeaks, for example, and one of their plans was to inject, to submit fake documents or forged documents into WikiLeaks to discredit the whole platform. That was one of the ideas they had. And after all the hacks, it was actually Palantir, I believe, that publicly apologized even for being involved in these email conversations. Just to note that real quick.
And I don't know if people know this, but Palantir, as a private intelligence corporation, now owns or is in possession of the health information for, I believe, the United States, and by I literally mean all private health data.
Yeah,
For
that's
the
through
United
warp
States,
speed.
United Kingdom, and Australia, right? This was under that initiative to try to be able to better monitor public health. Donald Trump literally, I don't even know if it was sold or given, so I don't want to use a word there, but turned over all of our public health information, and then multiple other countries followed suit to a private intelligence corporation. So that's fun.
Yeah, because I'm pretty. Don't know if this is the exact name of the software, but I'm pretty sure the U.S. government contracted Palantir for their Gotham software as a part of the Op Warp Speed. So
Gotham software do? I've never heard of this.
okay, I'm gonna read their fancy definition for it.
Oh, fancy now, is it?
Palantir Gotham brings intelligence, people, and data together to empower one another. As users collaborate and build off one another's work, they create and grow a body of shared intelligence for their organization. In Gotham's integrated applications and modules, oh God, this is so bad. Users can search all data sources at once, explore divergent hypotheses, surface unknown connections and patterns, and share insights with their colleagues. This ecosystem of data capabilities and base platforms, whether Palantir Gotham Core, Palantir Foundry, or both, augments the capability of the entire organization.
So they just built a database. Big whoop. That's all they did, a database, and it was probably just Elk or Splunk or something like that. They probably didn't even build it. They probably just had a Linux engineer come in and engineer it for them. And it's some already made software, and they probably just had it plugged into a GUI because it has an API. They probably didn't actually build anything. They just had the GUI built and then plugged it in. So fancy.
Yeah, but what it does show is that these companies like HB Gary, Palantir are doing just like what UC Global did and does. Is they are doing tasks for the governments, and because they're not directly inside the government, they're not part of the government, but they're like contractors.
So they can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a method in the United States of gaining total immunity and obscurity.
So that's like with
Jason
Blackwater.
Burmis. Yeah, shout out to Jason Burmis for breaking the story on video. But there's a program that's referred to loosely as signature reduction from the Pentagon. And what it is it's a private domestic military program where they enlist what they brag as like 6 times the size of the domestic CIA program. So about 60,000 people working as private military contractors living secret lives across the country. And it's discussed about how these people are used to bypass biometric securities, where they'll manufacture synthetic skin gloves for people to wear to gain other people's fingerprints. They're taught how to behave in certain ways with mannerisms to overcome gesture-based or like physiological movement-based biometric scanning systems.
That sounds spooky.
and and it happens in such a coordinated fashion that I believe it was Washington State, it came out that this Pentagon program known as it's in the classification of special access programs, that the agents of it unknowingly to the state of Washington were editing the Bureau of Motor Vehicle records in real time to allow their agents to have identities as they entered into the areas, like generate them licenses and all of those things. And then in real time can edit passport data.
Yeah,
So,
because when you're saying like bypass biometric, it actually says literally that they can manipulate biometric databases of foreign governments, so agents can pass fingerprint checks under false identities.
What the hell is the point of biometrics? It sounds so stupid now.
well, it's to control us.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
the whole point
Oh,
of
I get it.
biometrics, is it's not to stop the whole
There's nothing
billionaire
secure about
class's movements. Like for example, this is what Burmis brings up all the time, which I think is a great point. There was pipe bombs placed all across Washington, D.C., right on January 6th. No one's been picked up for that. No one's been charged. No one's been convicted. There's no answers to it. The person evaded, by official accounts, all of the security apparatuses in place to protect these specific locations. But there's grandmas getting stitched up from the protest events. And according to Kara Castronova, in Washington, D.C. alone, there's still 38 of 51 people arrested on January 6th that are still being held in solitary confinement. And that was over 6 months ago. That's almost 7 months ago now that those people were detained. And there's states across the country that are going around making arrests in coordination with the FBI to arrest people literally just for being on the grounds of January 6th as a way to do political intimidation. So that's super fun. That ties into the whole anti-terrorism legislation.
Yeah, did nothing for anybody.
Yeah, and yeah, the main purpose, I'm just reading this from an article, right? But the main purpose they say that it gives the U.S. deniability on sensitive missions. So that's the thing, like what we discussed with Blackwater or UC Global, right? Or
Yes. Disgusting bunch.
yeah, they set up offshore locations as their headquarters, where there are completely different human rights laws, making them pretty much able to do anything. Like IK discussed it on a previous episode, that they used a bank in Pakistan to run an operation, and then technically, if you do that, you set up a company in Pakistan, technically you're following Pakistani law. So forget about whatever human rights we have in our country. No, you're now following Pakistani law. So that's how your human rights are going to be protected. So and that's what they can do then with offshore companies. Of course, this you should actually mass sue them or something and make. But it's not happening. So
Why would anyone ever do anything that makes sense, Lovey?
yeah, I mean, you should do that because they aren't a Pakistani company. They're people from America, but they pretend to be. And it's actually if Newsweek or Daily Mail write articles about it, I mean, pretty much the mainstream people know about it, but nothing is happening.
Isn't that how it always goes?
Yeah.
How many people suing them do you think it would take?
Well, you need to just set up like a foundation and have everyone just drop in a few bucks and get a few good lawyers to do it. Yeah.
I had the few bucks.
I know this is all fantasy because these people are probably going to be murdered or put away in some hole in the ground. But yeah, I mean that's technically what should happen.
I would find it to be quite dangerous unless beforehand you were capable of making one of my favorite things, actually. A big scene of sorts. If you were to make a big scene and get exposure beforehand, they wouldn't be able to just do away with you in such a manner. Not as easily. Because I mean, like, if you become a public prospect of sorts, and a bunch of people know who you are and know about you, they're not gonna just outright just take you out like that. But now, if you're some nobody, you know what I mean, that's just getting started, and then they siphon you out before you even get begun, you know what I mean. So it's not quite as difficult. If you catch my meaning.
And anyone interested in seriously organizing against the intelligence community, whether personally or with groups of individuals, or organizing for anything because of the way the intelligence community works nowadays, I would recommend looking up Susie Dawson's Freeing Julian Assange Part 3 on ContraSpin. It's basically like an activist handbook about the way that intelligence communities use certain tactics to interrupt the actions of activists, and essentially methods of like activist version of personal hygiene that you can do, but also like literally just explaining, like if you encounter a situation, generally searching it in some form in there gives you at least a little bit of guidance in what to do if you're someone that's like serious, like really serious about organizing, because that's like the intelligence communities literally are trying to, if not outright, run or propagandize the majority of the population. So being able to effectively identify that and work against it, that's a really good article and source for that, the Freeing Julian Assange Part 3.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so to actually to effectively organize something, you can't do that alone, of course. You need a movement, a huge movement. Like, you're not going to stand up against the intelligence community on your own. You see what happens to people who do that. They face up to 175 years in prison.
That's what I was saying. You got to make a big scene beforehand, and then they just can't get rid of you, because even if they do get rid of you, it still exists. So they wouldn't even take the time and the trouble to get rid of you in such a manner.
People who actually stand up against these communities end up in a hole in the ground. I can tell you that, or they end up dead. But so yeah, you need to be If you actually stand up against them, you will be not talking about it anymore. But okay, you need a movement, and you need to stay public. I think Jack makes a good point. But even when you're public, they can still try to make like an example out of you to scare the rest of them.
I'm not saying it's the perfect plan, but I'm saying it's better than no plan.
You have the risk that they want to make an example out of you to scare the rest from doing it, right? So and then you end up in next to Julian in Belmarsh.
But what about a person that they couldn't make an example out of?
Yeah, it needs to be a really cryptic person.
They removed a sitting president of the United States from social media in the middle of one of the most contested elections our country's ever had, after that president called and told people, please go home, right? So they have the power at this point. Like, the examples, at least for them, have been made, in my opinion. If you look at like Henry Kissinger's lockstep document from before any of us were even born, I think, don't want to guess, but literally everything that we're experiencing right now was something that war criminal wrote decades ago, because it's even down to the level of the way that society is being manipulated into the response to the pandemic, the way that certain third world countries are allowed access to technological expansion, everything like that. So that's another like really horrifying thing to like look at as far as like our world is concerned.
So you talked about Germany, right? In the they're organizing huge street protests, for example. But in Germany, they successfully stood up against some of these companies in the past. Like you gave the example of them removing Trump from Twitter. Well, you had Google Earth, for example, Google Street View. I'm not sure if people remember that when it first launched, it had license plates, faces on it, and it had the numbers of the homes on it too. And it was German citizens with the German Foundation who sued Google and forced them to take everything off. Otherwise, they wouldn't be allowed in Germany and effectively in the entire European Union, because they copy the law from whatever European country rules over it. Like, it becomes European law unless it is ruled against by the European Court of Justice. But so they successfully did that, and they did it with Twitter too. They sued Twitter, and they made sure that whenever like they report something, this had to do with like anti-racism and stuff. Whenever the Germans report something on Twitter, Twitter has to act within 24 hours. Otherwise, they face a fine of up to 50 million for each case.
Oh my God!
Didn't Poland just roll something like that out, I think? Where if there's a post that's removed, they have to, there's a fine of like $20 million or something like that for every Polish citizen's post that gets taken down by a social media company. That unlawful post, like.
Oh, I didn't know about that, but that is very possible. I have to check into that. But I just know about these German examples, and I was just mentioning it because apparently in Germany it does work. Like, there are groups of people who like literally launch these lawsuits, and it works. And the huge social media companies that are apparently strong enough to ban a president from their entire platform are bowing to it. They're bowing down to it.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, but they have to.
Good. Should.
And then we had the GDPR thing, right? GDPR was brought into place. It's annoying. You get all these pop-ups, or you can't visit the website. Because GDPR, that is a European thing that European citizens are allowed to demand all their information to be removed from social media websites. So they have, you have a form of control over your information by law. And since many US websites can't comply to it, they're blocking Europeans from visiting these websites entirely. But yeah, that's because they can't comply to it. But if they would, they, you have these rights. So something is happening in that sense. Like, you can do it with lawsuits. I know in Austria they sued Facebook over some things too. So yeah, it has to happen collectively. I think you have to do the same with intelligence agencies, to be honest, even though you're facing huge risks with it. But yeah.
So Reporters Without Borders, according to what I can find, is the latest update. It's still a proposed bill, like it's in the legislation stage and hasn't been passed yet. But it would literally, if content or an account gets deleted, then the social media platform would end up getting fined by the government. So that's a potential big move that Poland's working on. I don't think it's passed yet, from what I can find, but it's still in the works.
Yeah, and Poland was one of the countries that was also voting against the whole ACTA 2 thing in Europe, the copyright directive, because it was super intrusive. Like, you have an upload filter, they're building a huge AI system, and several countries are not happy with that. They voted against it, and Poland was one of those. So that government is very much interested in privacy.
Wasn't there some European bill that they snuck in? Like some anti-privacy, anti-internet legislation that got fucked up apparently and approved by mistake according to the government. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was some bill that passed that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, well, it started out in 2019 with ACTA 2, Article 13, Article 11, and Article 13 put in an upload filter in place that literally screens uploads against the copyright.
That's absolutely crazy. That's almost what the fuck is the Glory? What's the piece of legislation that was coming out during coronavirus to put in an upload filter that they were trying to say was to stop online pornography spreading? Because it's almost like the exact same as the European one. I just can't remember the name.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, so okay, so that is very very relevant because yeah, in this case,
The Earn It Act, I think.
yeah, and in so in Europe they made website Article 13 makes website owners responsible for the content the users post, right? So you have a news website, someone posts a meme in the comment, meme is copyrighted, you as website owner are responsible. Then you have to pay.
Sounds like a bunch of garbage.
Yeah. And so in the USA, they did a similar thing with Fosta Sesta, which was signed by Donald Trump in 2018. That was
Shocker.
yeah, and it was over Craigslist and a few other sites that were having where people were prostituting themselves. People were offering like sex for money and stuff, and they said like, yeah, the website owners are now responsible for what these users do. Effectively, it has this exact same consequences in law. That you as a website owner are responsible for what your users do. So in the EU you can do this for copyright, but you can also do it for the sex jobs thing, right? And in the USA you can do it for the sex job, but you can also do it for the copyright. It's pretty much, in law it says the website owner is responsible, so Disney whatever can sue you too if there is a meme posted. Because in law it says you are responsible. So that's the thing. That was Article 13, and that's what was put in place. And while we were angry about the upload filter as activists, of course, because yeah, it is for copyright for like movies or memes or whatever. But also, if we organize a protest on the street and someone joins a protest and plays like a copyrighted music, we can't upload it. Or if someone has Nike shoes on which are too visible on the screen, we can't upload it because there is a Nike logo in it. So
Oh my god, that
was
sounds
actually a
terrible.
method that got used across the country to shut down protest streams during the like George Floyd period back in 2020.
Yeah.
Um,
You couldn't have like music playing in the background. Even to this day, whenever like I'll be on the ground with Johnny, we gotta like scream over the music if we think it's gonna get copyrighted.
yeah. So you don't only need the
It's
police to
crazy.
stop it, you just have the copyrighted music. You stop it copyrighted music. Yeah, so that's just sad. Yeah, okay, and then but okay, there was Article 11, Article 13 about copyright and all that stuff, and then you had Terreg, Terreg, and that is the terrorist filter, right? The hate speech slash terrorist filter, and yeah, that was created also in the European Union.
Dude, this sounds like a bunch of garbage, bro.
Yeah, so someone posts like a threat or something that's considered terrorism on a social media site, and the social media site has 2 hours to remove it, otherwise they get fined. So yeah,
What the hell does a fine even do to solve anything?
I don't know, but I do know that it's not just for the social media, it's for every website owner. So if you're a kid and you own a website, you have to be awake 24/7, because if you fall asleep for 2 hours and someone posts something wrong on your site, you got a huge problem. They can arrest you, they can do that crazy shit to you.
is Tarek a U.S. or EU?
Yeah, that's the
program?
EU program.
Okay.
But it's I'm pretty sure it's also going to be in the US, because we have a single market thing they're trying to achieve, and it's going to be happening in the USA too, just as fast.
Well, yeah, because if you look at like the recent here in the U.S., that's why I was asking. If you look at the domestic terrorism legislation that they're or bill or executive order, I don't know exactly what it is. Report maybe. But the new thing coming out of the government about who they classify as domestic terrorists, I think is pretty nuts, because if that upload filter is applied to it here in the United States, if you are pro-religion, anti-religion, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, if you're how the fuck did they word it? Someone that believes the government's purposefully overstepping its constitutional bounds, you're a terrorist. So that would be interesting to see how that's rolled out in the U.S. in response to legislation like that, because if it's literally used to remove all like religious content and anti-capitalist content from Facebook and other social media platforms, that would be pretty intense.
because obviously that's what it's going to be used for. Not just terrorism. It is just that they have something to hit you with, right? They have a stick to hit you with if they don't agree with something. It's a legal stick. And
It's just like the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act charge, like how it's so broad they can literally go after you for anything. Like turning on a
Yeah.
computer, violation of it.
Well, they did recently narrow it, though, in that Supreme Court case. The only problem is it was done using a cop. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they still narrowed it. Because technically, I think the background of the case was that they were charging him with the CFAA for using his access to a license plate database to search for someone's license plate. And that was considered out of bounds for him, but the way the Supreme Court ruled, it basically narrowed that, so that way if you already have access to a database, then you can, that's kind of within your acceptable activity there, or however they would frame that in the upper legal terms.
Morning.
hey,
Good
Dad.
morning, sunshine.
I just woke up.
You woke up just for this show, did you?
No,
Oh,
just woke up.
Someone sounds grumpy.
Yeah, I'm always grumpy when I wake up.
have you had your chocolate milk yet?
Oh, he's got to go get that half gallon.
Yeah.
I feel like he's casting spells at us.
Just give him some
Anyway.
time.
Anyway, don't let me disturb you. You was talking about something, so
Yeah. We're talking about the stuff that is censoring our internet with legal sticks, and they're using it against us now. While they keep our journalists in prison.
yes, they are.
Yeah. It's pretty serious.
But you know what somebody was saying yesterday. Walk him out. You know what I mean, right?
Mhm.
No, I don't. I don't think that's real. Ah, shut up, computer! Shut up, computer! So annoying. No, that's not realistic. You know, and you know, I think if he really wants to do that, it only will harm Assange's case. You know.
They could use it against you possibly. I could see that actually.
Yep.
If it were to fail, and I'm saying you got to look at all the possibilities, not just a win. Because a win is overall, and if you go based upon the laws of probability, not very likely, just to be honest. But I'm not saying
But-
impossible.
Actually, if we try to break him out by force, we actually prove their point that we are a danger for society.
It would
Right.
make it look that way. I would
Yeah,
think, actually.
exactly. But they will turn it against us.
Oh, looky who's here! Speak of the devil, and he shall
boy.
appear.
What? You called?
Yeah, we were just
Oh,
mentioning the whole
somebody-
walk him out thing, and you showed up.
It's
Well,
like
that's how it is.
This timing was too.
He was listening.
I think the way you're attacking this is unrealistic. I'm the one who has
I like how you
plans.
exploit words like that, Thor.
Lobby gets what I'm talking about.
Guys, we're not going to fight on air tonight. Seriously,
I'm just commentating. That's all.
Okay.
I'm not fighting.
Says the guy. You just said he was attacking your words, though. So what else would you call it, Thor?
I'm not
Is somebody
attacking.
attacking?
I'm just giving my opinion.
Exactly.
opinion-
So the only aggressor here would be Thor in that
You're
matter.
attacking this thing from the wrong angle. You think that this is going to look like this and that. What does keeping this guy in jail for this long time look like from the other angle then? It looks like torture.
Hey, let's go from the
I
start.
think-
Let's go from the start because we have Andrew in, right? And he doesn't even know what we're talking about, I think. So, we're in a legal case now, right? With the whole Assange thing. Like, there is a court case going on. And a few of us suggested that if we are losing the court case and everything, we would attempt to take him out of prison ourselves. Comments?
Which I think is
The thing that I'm disappointed in is that there's no state that's willing to declare sanctions on the United Kingdom and the United States for this. Like, even if it's like symbolically, but that there's no country in the world that's willing to put their political and economic weight behind saying, no, don't do this. I think from the standpoint of doing we'll just call it intervention as citizens into the court case, you probably can. Like, if you were like a group of rowdy Irishmen that wanted to roll down there, probably not on like peak security days, but if you read the actual articles, they were talking about how they couldn't even get enough staff during COVID because of how many people were sick that worked at the prison. So as far as that standpoint, I don't think it would be unfeasible. I think it would be stupid. I don't think that it would serve a larger purpose aside from momentary symbolism, because then that gives them the ability to just fucking do whatever the hell they want to those people and to Julian. Like,
exactly, they will use it against us.
right, and I mean like violently, like to end the trial by force by killing Assange in some type of escape attempt or some shit like that, and then blaming it on the people that captured him or something. Because like we know through Vault 7, right, that they can get everything. Like they can hack into your car as you're driving down the road. So unless someone's in like a 1980 something Studebaker or whatever the hell the UK had, and trying to do this in that kind of operation, but then that would be probably some kind of private intelligence company that organized it anyways, as just some type of larger bullshit operation.
I think I have to say something here. What I'm talking about is something way, way different. Did anybody catch the giant fucking protest all over London and England last weekend? No, because the media did not report on it. But some of the biggest protests that England has ever seen was last weekend. But you didn't hear about it.
He's right, the anti-lockdown protest, right? I mean, that's what you mean.
Well, it was partially that. It was also partially Tory protest, Free Palestine protest, and a whole lot of other protests. People are pissed off in every direction. But the thing is, the media did not fucking report on it in any real way. But we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands just swamping the streets everywhere. And hello, that's what I'm talking about. Wake up.
The media, to be fair,
Okay.
the UK media did report on it, but not in a way that people think. Because the UK's been building stuff like that for a long time. Like Stella Morris showed up at one of the Free Palestine events, and it was massive. And what the UK has recently done, at least as far as I know, has lifted most of their lockdown restrictions on a rolling temporary basis. And as these events keep getting bigger and bigger, not mentioning that it's related to that, but their national government keeps talking about going back into lockdown and shit like that, as I think a way to try to intimidate society about like, hey, don't go to these events because people are going to start getting sick and you're going to have to go back into your homes again. Because that's how it's going to be used.
Yeah, it's fear propaganda, fear mongering, old school type politics. Like, you listen to us or you die, but that's not how our society is actually structured. So it's time we stand up and say, go away.
I agree 100% with that.
Thank you.
But still, I think that walk him out, physically walk him out of prison, they will only use it against him and against us.
I think you should just Google what I just told you and look at the size of
I
these
know,
protests.
I saw.
Yeah.
Well,
Cryptic,
that,
actually,
then
before this.
you understand that if we can swamp an entire fucking like London downtown, Belmarsh prison is like, come on, and don't fuck it up by like, like, are you trying to sabotage?
Well,
let us
but
do what we're doing. Don't get
It's
in the
so funny
way.
every time he says that. It's hilarious.
Listen, I'm just concerned that, first of all, even if we manage to walk him out, they will prison him again. They will be
It's not his fault.
after him
It's not his fault.
and arresting him again. And second, we just proved their point that we are quote unquote a danger to society.
well, no, wait.
We have to stand up against tyranny. We have to stop this. We are the people. They are the fucking elite.
Lord, chill out, bro. Can you not handle other people's opinions and thoughts?
Protest. Everybody listen.
Somebody mute him. That's
We are
ridiculous. He's acting like a
protesting
child.
now. Everybody start protesting now.
He talks about censorship, but then he censors people with what he calls free speech. It's ridiculous and shouldn't be put up with.
Okay. So now wait a second now, because there's something we're forgetting, and that is what Andrew actually said is you have to let the law play its part, right? So we are waiting for this whole case to finish first, and then you can decide like, okay, so without dealing with some kind of new fascism where free press is no longer respected, because now actually the law is against us and it declares free press invalid, an innocent journalist is being like taken away, and then you can say like, okay, if this is the case, we have to draw our own conclusions out of this. Are we going to accept this or not, right? That's the choice we have.
True.
So there's a concept that's worth like putting in here, and it's the idea, and this is something I think about a lot, that like the pen is mightier than the sword, right? And what that means, at least to me, is that there are people like us with the intellectual capacity to understand the world in nuance and depth and for what it is and for what we want it to be. And people have their own level of capacity and their own level of ability to influence society. So if you're someone that has the ability to recognize these issues, regardless of whether it's lockdown protests, vaccine issues, freeing Julian Assange, racial justice issues, gun rights, medical rights, what have you, it's all about informing people to let them make their own decision. Because we inherently, I think, all agree on a society based on some level of consent, right? So part of it is, are the people there willing to consent to the possible consequences of doing that? And I think that that's a decision for those individuals in that time and space to make for themselves. Like, I make the decision to sacrifice at least 2 nights to 3 nights to, at some points, weeks of my life fighting for this on the ground to raise that alarm. So if there's individuals out there that take something upon themselves to act in a certain way, understanding what law is, I don't think that those individuals should be placed on pedestals, but I don't think that they should be burned at the stake. But I think everyone has their own personal path on how they choose to go about fighting global tyranny. Because ultimately we know for a fact that once that crowd of normal people gets rabble-roused, there is outcomes and consequences. But it comes down to what that individual person is willing to do for the world that they see, I guess. And in most cases, it's more important to allow other people the space and time and content to develop, to understand the severity of the issue, while at the same time those people then become more able to like face it down and inform others in their local community. Because the idea should be that we can inform cities well enough that they don't come for an individual where they have to come for a whole community. Because if we're one person that's able to be pulled out of the house and turned off on the internet, that's easy. But if we build the ideas within our cities, then we become an obsolete piece in the whole puzzle. And I think that's the more important part, is getting it so people have the ability to make their own decisions. And when everything finally cracks down, that there is entire, not that it's a good thing, but that entire places understand what's happening. Because then those places will either have to be exterminated or relented to by the global military intelligence elite. If that answers my question about the riots and mobs and stuff. But one of the things too that
Well,
Cryptic pulled up.
I'm saying it's much easier than that. You don't have to complicate it all that much. You can just like get a bunch of people together and walk him out of prison. And you know, you're not even British, so what do you know?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm in the United States. I don't have. That's why I'm saying I don't have a say. That it's up to the people there. Like that's not. I can't make that call for someone.
The probability that it turns violent is really high, and they will use it against us. That is my opinion.
What you can just stay Dutch and you know, keep your ass in the Netherlands. Nobody's gonna care. London has enough people. You know where I'm going with this? Yeah, the real ones are still there, and you know you're going to see. Just wait for it. Today, what day is it today? Today is protest day. Just wait for it.
Huh. And then everybody was silent.
Yeah, why is there dead air suddenly? There's plenty of to discuss about this. It's just like the question: to how far do you let this? Do you accept this to go? Like you're dealing with a serious issue. That is, they are removing essentially entire human rights from the list if they get their way. And are you going to accept it or not? Like, I mean, it's not just about one guy. I mean,
I agree it's not acceptable, but violence doesn't solve anything.
No,
We're not talking about violence. We're not talking about violence at all. I'm actually not talking about even like rattling the tents or whatever. I'm talking about just swamping them to such a degree that we can walk him out of prison without any violence.
Not in this universe.
So you're hold on, Thor. Now I have a question. So you're telling me that you could accomplish that without a single act of violence? Because you know, once a single act of violence occurs, you know what tends to happen? Madness ensues.
So there was
immediately.
a group of there was a
You're
militia.
sounding like the media now. Like chaos will ensue. No, the people are standing up.
I'm not saying chaos
injustices.
will ensue. I'm
Don't
telling you
interrupt me. Let me speak.
you cannot do that without violence happening. They're full of shit.
Well, it has happened in the past. Peaceful things can actually occur. That is the thing.
Okay.
There
Peaceful
was a
protest.
militia in the United States called the Green Mountain Boys, and it's not the same, but it's still similar. They were located in Northern Virginia and West Virginia, and what was happening, the governor in New York City was literally just selling or giving away land that was already owned or settled by the people that had moved there previously as settlers in a previous time. And the governor of New York was literally just giving it away. And this armed group never fired a single round, but would get those people that the governor told were living here now and owned this property with weapons on their backs, tape them up or rope them up in those days, carriage them back to the governor of New York, and just drop them off at the governor's step and say, these people are your problem, and then go back. So there can be effective methods of civil disobedience that have the ability to become a very bad situation that historically haven't. So there is legal precedent for something like that happening, or historical precedent for something like that happening. But it also is, does Julian consent to it? Because that's a bigger portion. Like, is he, because he's talked about the fact that he's openly willing to be the person that smashes into the icebergs. Like, is this something that he is willing to go through for the hope of having this be ruled against the United States? I don't sell hopium, so I'm not putting that, like, hey, we're going to win mentality out there, but that's another option, is if you get there and say, hey, walk him out, and he says, no, I want to stand on this, as terrible and as depraved and corrupt and torturous as the situation is. And that's a whole another thing that you wouldn't know until that situation presents itself.
Well, let's try to communicate with him then. Like his lawyer and stuff. Or don't we have the right to actually talk to this guy? What we're doing is protesting their illegality. You know, they're doing stuff that would actually be considered torture. But they're like, you know, they don't care what people say. So it's time we do something. We protested with our mouths for years now. Nobody's listening. Ha ha ha, we're keeping him anyway. And then we'll say, okay, if you're going to do this illegal thing, then we have to do this disobedience thing and just bring him out of prison. And then we can, like, continue the discussion afterwards.
So you're going to make the decision for Julian, is what you're saying.
The decision is already made. They broke the law. They're torturing the person.
That's not what I asked.
Well, you know, what you're framing is sort of like an abstract news thing, like everything.
No, it's not. That's the whole point that Andrew just made.
Please let me speak. We can't
You're not
have this
answering my
interruption
question
all the time.
You interrupt
Well,
people
I'm
constantly.
trying to, but you won't let me speak. So
But
I'm
you
not
never
going
stop
to
talking.
speak. Let somebody else speak.
I would prefer it, sure.
The thing is, like I said, the risk that things will get out of hand and get really violent is really high, and they will use that against the case of Assange.
No, it's not high at all. You don't know what.
You just interrupted somebody, Thor. Please be quiet.
No, I didn't.
Yes.
I was the one talking, and I muted myself just to see if you jumped on. And pretty much, I just outlined it.
That is manipulation.
Now
right
it's early morning, and people are getting ready, and just watch what's happening today.
Completely interrupted, Leaky.
Damn it. Oh, there we go.
Or we can just talk and pretend we're protesting, quote unquote.
The thing is, first we indeed need to let the legal system play its way out, right? Don't you agree, Cryptic? Andrew?
I think that the pen is needed for the most part, but I do agree that there should be some form of communication between the people and between Julian and Assange, because we need to know what he wants and what he thinks, because that's what matters most whenever it comes to somebody else's life. Thor.
Well, I was the one who suggested we actually contact him. Go ahead.
No, that's all. Literally, that's my input. Is I have my own personal opinions, but I don't have the right to impose whatever that is on anyone. If there's individuals that want to do things, that's on them.
Well, I think Julian Assange would like that people at least, have that will to stand up and march him out of prison, even if he says no. But again, I do think we should try to get in contact with his lawyer.
The important thing as well will be trying to establish direct contact with Julian himself. That doesn't go through any sort of legal team, honestly, because we need a direct line to Julian.
That's a problem with people in prison. You have to contact them through their attorneys.
Yeah, it still needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, the parliamentarians in the UK can't even, like Jeremy fucking Corbyn, can't even get him to give him a video link to speak with Julian, let alone be able to see him in person. But I think, I don't know. It's the situation, like, I don't disagree, is desperate, considering that it's been over 6 months since I think he got to meet with his lawyers. They spent 8 months without allowing him to see his wife or kids. I remember in the beginning of the trial at the end of February in 2020, the one that went end of February to beginning of March, just in the first day of the trial, it was reported that he was like handcuffed 11 or 14 times, moved between 6 different holding cells, strip searched twice, placed in what Craig Murray described as a glass coffin in the back of a van, and then shipped across town to be placed inside of a glass box inside of a courtroom. And that was the first 6 hours of Julian's day before trials even started in February of 2020. February of 2020. The very first week-long round of hearings.
Hey, so that's
Like when,
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, the trial that they did in September, the 4 week long like kangaroo court, essentially. They did it in the Old Bailey, which is literally like an iconic torturer's prison from back in older England. And in all of the time that it existed and had been used to allow men to commit legal atrocities against other men or other humans, it never had a glass box until Julian Assange was brought there for his trial in September. Like, just like the magnitude of them going to that trouble in September of 2020 to build something new within the Old Bailey that hadn't previously been there. The glass cage, the like thick, I think almost bulletproof glass that had been built there specifically for Julian's trial. I think that itself is a heinous crime against humanity, let alone the conditions for almost 2 years leading up to that trial.
Yeah, so what I'm referencing is actually just historical action. People have done this before, not necessarily in the same way, but it has been done many times before when governments have just, turned rotten.
I think it's just crazy that we reach the point that a discussion like this has to happen. Like, as a global civilization, that something as simple as telling the truth is chastised in such a way that it literally leads to a man being in solitary confinement for 2 years after being in total isolation for almost a decade before that.
Yeah, it's like a new fascism, right?
Yeah, that's. I'm putting myself in the same position. What if this was me? I'm personally offended by this whole thing.
Well, I mean, it's people like us that are personally at risk. It's people like us that, once everything falls through, that are going to be the ones that are moved into the forced labor camps and shit.
Yeah. So yeah, time to stand up. That's what I'm saying.
The fact is that quote unquote democracy is dying here.
Yeah,
Right.
and what have the people done in the past when like stuff like this has happened or similar situations have occurred? You know, we did stand up once. We can stand up again.
I'm still waking up. Damn it.
I'm just looking at the chat right now to see if there's any questions. If you have any questions, just post them in there.
Oh, I'm watching the chat as well. So
So someone says like,
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead.
Mark, why aren't you multi-streaming to everything?
We are streaming to a few platforms, like even like VK.com, YouTube,
I probably,
Twitch.
in retrospect, probably could have put this up on Action first time.
Okay, but
I didn't think about
did
it.
you get
Afterwards, you can just upload
the
it. I guess.
Nginx working?
For this, we
Did
use the
you get-
restream.
Okay, but did you get the multi-streaming setup working?
No, that one not yet. No, but we're using this one.
Okay,
This one
but
we've been
I-
using for a long time already. So it's a basic restream.
Okay, but unless you can like crack your way through the restream, I know what kind of prices they have. You know, we can do this for free, dude, for free. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
Restream is
require
pretty
all that
pricey.
much. It doesn't require all that much of a setup, but we just have to do it. I got a few people together now, so if you join the server I invited you to, we can actually troubleshoot this and get it done. It will give us an advantage, trust me. Yeah, I noticed how we have 28 people watching us. Like,
On YouTube.
we
yeah.
used to have thousands of people watching us.
Do you guys go up on Periscope at all?
Well, isn't Periscope like destroyed now, or is it still working?
I don't know. We got Periscope just wouldn't let us put videos to it. Like no matter what we did, we like our stream key whenever we put anything up would just crash. So that was a big bummer because we used to get the most views we ever got were through Periscope. At least for like the vigils and stuff back in the day. I don't really have much teenager stuff left. I can grab the link for you guys to the original indictment and to the student article. I got both of those. I don't know if you want me to put them in chat or in the general chat or what. Is my computer freaking out, or are we just not talking?
No, nobody's saying anything. They're probably contemplating their, empty existence or something. But what's
I'm actually working for the thing you said I don't do.
Yeah. So Julian Assange, poor guy, in prison. Happy birthday, by the way.
Right, we just, here in the US, we're about 45 minutes from crossing that.
The
But
big
I'm just
5-0.
pumped for all the on the ground support. Like, because here in the U.S. we didn't have shit really. Like there was a New York City group, there was a group couple in on the West Coast. Like I think the Bay Assange has been around for forever. But it's really been the last like 12 months, if not less than that, like 8 months, that people in the United States really started like turning up and caring. Like around the time of like people demanding a pardon from Trump was around the time that people started like paying attention again. So I think that's at least in like the scope of history, that's a grand thing that there's actually people that give a shit in the U.S. now compared to what it used to be.
Okay.
Do you care if we wrap up? I've been in the same chair for like 16 hours.
Oh, are you that tired? I'm sorry.
Or if I bounce out. Not that you guys have to stop, but do you guys care if I get going here in a little bit?
I was wondering why I was so quiet. That is 16 hours in a row again.
Yeah, no, I do like streams and shit from the place that I work, and I opened this morning, so I've been here since 7 a.m. my time, and I'm at like 11 p.m. now.
Yeah. So, are there some things you want to mention, like get people to certain protests or actions?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So the big thing I want to encourage people to do is literally anything you can with the time and money that you have. Get out to if you're here in the United States, get out to your local 4th of July Freedom Day celebrations this weekend. Pass out literature about Julian, have local conversations, and I recommend bringing like just water to pass out to people. Cold water preferably, just because everywhere across the U.S. is fucking hot right now. So if you can, get out to your local 4th of July events to pass out counter propaganda. There's the big events out in LA with Glory and Steve and the Combo crew. Supposedly Jimmy Dore's going to be there, hopefully. And then there's also the events in Denver that are taking place. I don't know the exact location, but you can look up the Denver Free Assange crew. And then if you're in a supporter over in Europe, you have 2 different really good resources for finding protests. You can go to the Candles for, the number 4, Candles for Assange on Twitter or their website, but I think their website might be down, to find events across Europe, the US, and Australia. You can also use freeassange.eu. You can find them on Twitter and on their website. And they have events posted that are across European borders. So if you're someone over there, that's a great resource to use for that as well.
And yeah, according to the people who know, there's supposed to be a big protest, continuing protest today, from protest yesterday and protest last weekend, about, of course, the lockdown and some political intrigues in England and Palestine and a whole bunch of other issues. People are pissed off about a lot of stuff. But the lockdown protest is, of course, the main protest. And it's happening today.
That's awesome. I love the growing lockdown resistance. The U.S. is pretty light because everything in the U.S. as far as protests are light, but we still have them. We've had people turn up since it first started happening, so it's super cool, and it's like anti-political because there's no candidates that support anti-lockdown. So no matter what like wing of the spectrum you're on, it's not like that's locked into a particular political identity. So get out to any
and
protest
there's a reason.
honestly.
There's a reason people didn't see this, because it really looks fucking awesome with all these people swamping the streets. So that's why you didn't see it. They don't want to show you that visual. That's powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it horrifies the fuck out of them. Showing resistance terrifies the political establishment. Like just as a crazy example, George Bush an attempted coup in Haiti to try to oust someone that was previously like democratically elected in Haiti because they didn't want the Haitians to be able to rise up in a slave riot because they thought that the black factory workers in the southern United States in the early 2000s would look at that and begin organizing. So the fact that they have to black it out is the fact that it is powerful. Because it's not one of those like, hey, like, we call them like the pussy hat marches here in the US, but like the sanitized protests that are like Walmart approved and shit. So if you're doing anything real, it'll always get blacked out because the strongest thing you can do is know that other people are as outraged as you are about the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of why we should have our own live streamers on the streets there, or recruit people that can go live on our pages, because we want to show people when it's happening.
Have you tried getting a hold of the London Real guy? I don't know too much about the group, but I know that he's like some kind of like semi-edgy David Icke affiliated journalist out there, and has like a couple million viewership.
I know of the content, but I'll get on it in a couple of hours when people start waking up, and yeah, try to recruit some people, and any help is appreciated.
Oh yeah, but I've seen him, by the way.
Guys, I'm gonna bounce, but I'd love to set up some stuff to be able to come on and chit chat with you guys more.
Yeah, you just come on more often when we have more Assange related news. We should just discuss it with you on the air, right? I mean, because we have to amplify this.
And even lawyer fucking experts too. So
yeah,
also great. Like I fucking love those. Yeah. But yeah, no, whenever there's something big or just to bullshit, I'm more than happy to hop in.
Yeah, I should.
Really
yeah.
Appreciate you. Because I don't know if people know, but just to give you guys a shout out for how cool you are. It was 2 years ago last week, I think maybe a little bit more than that, but that Taylor and I first came on the Anonymous Bites Back podcast together. I don't know if people know who Taylor Hudak is. She's a reporter with Activism Munich. It's a German press outlet, and has done amazing work to be able to grow the civilian resistance to Assange's prosecution in Germany through that. But her and I actually met on this podcast, or on this chat, thanks to Mark actually reaching out to both of us completely without either of us knowing that the other one existed. So
yeah,
I always try to give you guys here at AVB like the biggest thank you, because we as Action for Assange wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you guys helping to pull us together.
Yeah, no, and I think it's something we can be really proud of. I mean, you guys did so much work and still do for Assange, and especially in the United States, you pretty much created all the grassroots support for Julian Assange. I mean, the organizing and all the planning that goes behind it, and the vigils, like so many people are watching these, and yeah, it's very powerful, and I'm very happy that we met like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll talk to you later.
We'll talk later. It's okay.
Peace out.
By the way, Mark, I see Canadian people in the chat. Is the ban in Canada lifted again?
Oh yeah, Stars James Peterson. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about, because a few episodes ago we mentioned that we were banned in Canada. So I was wondering, did it lift the ban again?
Remember, I told you it can be reversed. Nothing's impossible.
No, I just was wondering.
I know. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It could be reversed almost as quickly as it was obtained, in fact.
Why were we banned in Canada, of all places?
Who the fuck knows?
Did we lose Glory?
Yeah, she had to go do something. I already talked to her.
Okay.
Yeah, Yeah, so they're dealing with the underground protests, right, in Los Angeles and stuff, and they need to do a lot of work for that. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's the so-called silly season. Everybody's protesting stuff everywhere now because the weather permits. It's kind of funny, but yeah. We should be protesting all year, though.
yeah. Yeah, I think we should actually, just like Team Assange does in London. Team Assange every week goes out protesting at Belmars, goes out protesting in London City, right?
Whenever I once used to protest, we used to protest every week at the same time, at the same place, with loaded guns, in fact.
Yeah, I would not advise you to use loaded guns in this case, but weekly protests are a good idea, because even though you're only with like a few people, more people will join you, like people who aren't even involved in any of this yet, and they will see you protesting. They think like, who are these people every week here? What the hell are they doing here? What is this about, right? Maybe they join you.
That is actually one of the things I want to do. I want one day to where every day of the week there's a protest about something or another, or for some reason just make a lot of noise, you know what I mean? One of the things I find I specialize in fact. Love you.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
That would definitely put pressure on governments, right? If there
Exactly.
are protests every day.
Never-ending noise. It'd be so
Exactly.
beautiful. It makes me excited just thinking about it. And in the United
So we
States,
have
they
a
all need
good-
to have loaded guns.
Well, not necessarily any guns, but we do have a good opportunity now. It's his birthday, you know. That's a good day to start the whole thing and get focus back on him. I do understand that not everybody has time to spend, you know, every week or every day protesting this, but we can get some people together on, you know, these dates, and of course his actual birthday, that's a date, you know, and that's today.
Yeah, he's
It's in
hitting
half an
the
hour.
he's
Go
hitting the
ahead.
big 50, right?
50? He doesn't look that old.
Or 40,
No, he doesn't.
49, or I'm not sure.
No, it's his 50th birthday, and yeah, he doesn't look 50. That's true.
He doesn't. I thought he was like maybe mid-40s. Even early. He could even pass for early 40s.
Well, some people are just well conserved, right?
I mean, he doesn't really do much past how long has he
Yeah,
been
but
locked up?
that's even worse and better at the same time, that he's actually, you know, spending his birthday, his 50th birthday in prison. He shouldn't even be there. And of course, yeah, use this when you tell people that it's time to protest, you know. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Assange. Hope you're feeling well.
Yeah, saddest thing ever, of course.
Sadness in this world. Don't he?
But not just the fact that he is celebrating his birthday in prison, but also not seeing his wife and his children. I mean, he is missing a huge chunk of his kids growing up, right?
Yeah, and this is an innocent man, right? He's innocent. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean by birthday. You know, his family would be with him and his friends and everything. So, you know, we should throw a birthday party for him today.
You gonna bake a cake, Thor?
With a file in it.
I'm baking a cake right now.
Oh, what kind?
Put some.
Well, it's a revolution cake. I hope everybody is listening and baking too.
Put some C4 in the middle.
Something like that. But yeah, like I said, it's a good opportunity to relaunch the Free Assange campaign because it kind of died off with all the other stuff. So, yeah, and the lockdown bullshit. Everybody with a brain gets that it's just to stop us from stopping them in every context. They know we're pissed off.
Well, that's also something that is, coincidence that the whole lockdown shit started when protesting in the street was hitting its high point, right? In 2020.
Yeah, and yeah, such a coincidence, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said coincidence, like quote unquote coincidence, right?
Yeah, the kind they like. But yeah, I'm not gonna fall for it, and I hope nobody else does anymore. So just stand up, people. We can't be living in a prison. We haven't done anything to deserve that. Or have we? We elected stupid people to rule us. I guess we do deserve it. But yeah, we should stop it anyway. Change it.
My generation didn't really have much to do with it, did they?
Yeah, that's kind of it. And I feel the same way when it comes to my generation. I really never got like a vote in, so to speak. And it just keeps on going like that.
It's kind of like it was all decided for us before we were even born.
Yeah.
Isn't it just so wonderful?
Well, personally, I find it a bit annoying, to be honest.
Sarcasm, my friend.
I remember
Yeah.
back in the 80s when there was protesting against nukes and everything. It wasn't back in the 80s. I'm not sure if
Yeah, I remember.
Labby can remember that.
No,
I'm 42. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember everything, but yeah, it was like that other guy said, more like Walmart sanctioned pretty stuff. The way we protest is, yeah, a bit more over the top, I guess.
Did you ever
But-
protest with loaded weaponry?
No, I'm in like the wrong country to carry
It was-
anything.
It was just a joke, though. Because you said a bit extreme.
Yeah, but it's more like instead of just walking out like a good citizen and like marking whatever you need to mark. This is more about just throwing everything up in the air until they do what we want. Nothing is going to go back to normal. We will swamp the street. We will swamp businesses. We will stop them from actually functioning in a normal way. Oops, did I say that out loud?
You did.
I'm such a bad boy.
Serious upsec risks.
Oh.
But yeah, we need to get some of the British people in because yeah, they got shit going on.
Well, that is what I did say. Like, we need to do the same thing as the British are doing. We need to actually create a serious movement by having protests every single week at all embassies, U.S. embassies, UK embassies, and
I agree. Entirely, in fact.
yeah.
We need to organize it then. That is the part that's always missing, the organization. So if we set it up and give people dates and places to show up and stuff, it might actually happen.
It's not really difficult to do.
Well, I'm all for it.
Oh, ouch. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
I was trying to move.
well, we can get on that like right away. Start making groups and start pointing it out. Getting in touch with people who are actually protesting at the moment, and just chuck them in some pages and groups and stuff, and let them have access to stream when they want to. That kind of thing.
Well, the thing is, to get people to protest, people first need to know what we are protesting for. We have to educate the people what is going on, because
Yeah, but they're already. You need to Google it. They're already swamping the streets in Britain. They really took off last weekend. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands all over the streets. But the news didn't show us. So I'm like frustrated trying to tell people about it.
exactly,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
what I mean. We have to educate the people. Why are other people protesting? And come on, join in, because media
Yeah,
doesn't show it.
They have no idea what those protests are for if they're not protesting for.
Exactly.
Yeah, but a lot of people have stuff they would protest if they just had somebody to do it with. Most people would protest this ridiculous lockdown bullshit by now.
I'm for that because I don't like it. I want to be able to get on a plane if I want to get on a fucking plane. It's bullshit.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Prison plan, like they're giving Alex Jones, the benefit of the doubt now. He called it years ago, Prison Planet, and it's becoming true. Like the whole New World Order shit. It's like, I didn't take it seriously enough, I guess.
Maybe that's the problem, that nobody did.
Well, I see now that this is like psychosis related, and I understand humans, so I understand that this can happen, but it's just so strange to see it actually happen. Yeah, I want to wake up right now, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a bad nightmare, definitely.
It's almost like everybody's dream. Some a little more, some a little less. Some were never awake.
Some don't understand what's actually at stake right now.
Not even a little. I mean, how can you understand what's at stake if you don't even understand reality?
Yeah.
It's a freedom that's at stake, right?
They can't understand what freedom is if they don't understand what reality is. They can't understand many things if they don't understand if they don't understand what the equivalent exchange is.
Most people aren't aware that they have the right of assembly, the freedom of assembly, the freedom to protest, the freedom to actually make new political parties if they want to. People think they just, have to sit there and take dictation from the top, and that's a problem. I guess I'll have to agree with Ted with the education part on that one, because they do have rights, or had. They're slowly being eroded, taking away. And we who actually understand that those rights exist, we get frustrated when we see that happening. But a lot of people don't understand that they actually have the right, So
that is quite the problem. Just like, for example, the people in the United States are not aware that if they wanted to, they could go and protest with arms. They think that it's illegal or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, in the USA, you have the right. In the USA, you have the right to bear arms, and you can use it to protect yourself. So.
Which now, in certain states, it can become limited. For example, if you do not have a carrying license for a pistol, you clearly cannot carry a pistol. Like it was once this way in Texas, and that is actually getting revoked in September. You will no longer need a license to carry a pistol any longer, concealed or open. But you could always carry any long rifle anywhere that you want, as long as it wasn't private property that specified that you cannot carry it. So, for example, on a sidewalk or on the street, you can be holding a double-barrel shotgun if you want. You could carry a or anything of that nature. Really, you can have a gun with a a drum mag in it or whatever the hell you want. Really,
No,
you know
what
what I mean?
was
Just
it
people-
again? Wasn't it the Second Amendment?
Yes,
Yeah,
the right,
that's right.
to keep
Second
and bear
Amendment.
arms,
Yeah.
and now people find that could be restricting in some form or fashion. But what is arms? You know what I mean? Is that really ever specify any sort of weaponry at all, or is it just arms?
Well,
It's usually
I have two
connected
of them.
to. It's usually connected to some kind of utilitarian use, like hunting or whatever. So in California, if you're going to or from hunting, you can carry anything, on paper that is. But don't try that in practice. I just saw a guy got arrested for actually auditing, that law. But
Well, in Texas, you could.
well, until you meet some asshole cop, that's the problem.
That's true. They do tend to think they can do whatever the hell they want, don't they? They're a bit more like bullies, a gang, than they are protectors or defenders. Did you know that they don't actually they're not actually cited in to protect? All they're sworn in to do is enforce the law. Actually, it's a very common misconception in the United States.
Well, the thing is,
Well,
it's maybe not the police that is flawed, but the law is flawed because they keep changing it in their favor.
That's a fair point.
Well, in a lot of examples, they actually just, skip over the law and make up their own things. And you can even cite the law and say, this is illegal and this is against my constitutional rights and this and that. But an
They do it
actual cop
anyway,
is
don't
not.
they?
Yeah. They find ways around it, so to speak.
For example, if the police are on a chase and they have to jump through people's yards in order to chase down the suspect, did you know that they could just shoot someone's dog because they had to go through the yard and the dog was going to, whether or not the dog was really going to attack them or not, it doesn't matter, they can just shoot the dog. No repercussions. Is that not just bullshit?
Yeah, that is.
They can just jump through people's yards. Oh, fuck your liberties and your rights. We're gonna shoot your dog because they're, I guess, impeding the chase. I guess so. I guess that person deserves that sort of punishment just because someone else did something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, should those police had really been chasing a subject in a straight, direct line behind him anyway? Should they have not been formulating some sort of proper strategy and trying to know that, hey, instead of going through people's yards and stuff, which could endanger everybody around us, why don't we formulate some sort of strategy to catch him ahead instead of chasing him from the behind like a bunch of buffoons? You know what I mean? Not that I know anything about it.
Well, it's called justice. So if you try to stop them, you're impeding justice.
So I guess they get to decide what that means as well, correct?
That's kind of the problem here, and it all boils down to the law and, what kind of authority you grant police officers. But a lot of them think they kind of stand above the law and can make decisions.
I agree.
So, yeah, we should have, I guess, citizen police instead, like patrolling citizens instead of all these corrupt police.
It's actually a state thing. It's not even a federal thing for the police to exist. What it actually used to be is that all you had to have was a sheriff. But just much like in the cowboy days, the Western times, okay? All there was back then was sheriffs. And there was nothing else.
Yeah, and they can assign.
Yes,
deputies.
they could. I was just about to say that, and they could assign deputies, if they were needed. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah,
and back then, everybody was armed, and did you know that the crime rate was actually, it's theorized anyway, but it's theorized with, I'd have to go back and look at the real data, but that there was less crime in the Western days than today, and they believe that it is because everybody was armed. I mean, you couldn't just go up in a bar and shoot it up, or you'd get shot at by 15 fucking people. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it should be like this across the planet or anything like that, but in the United States, If you take people's guns, the only people left with the guns are the criminals. It's too saturated over here to go and take people's guns and think that that's going to solve the damn thing.
There is
And
something to
like
say for
Bubba
that.
said before.
There is something to say for that, because in London, where they have it banned, like people stab each other, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
The bans do nothing. Because like you said last time, if you wanted to, you could have a gun any time.
yeah,
I mean, if you wanted to, just, completely theoretical, of course. You're not going to go do that by any means.
yeah. No, I mean, I'm in a country where guns are banned, right? But I know there's 500,000 guns on the market, and I can get a gun in 15 minutes. So it will only cost you a bit more, but the gun is still there. It's still available.
And the bullets, correct?
And the bullets, yeah, of course.
Even perhaps
Well,
semi and automatic weapons if you wanted.
Anything is pretty much available.
Yeah, the only thing what you do is you just boost the illegal the illegal weapon
Yes.
trafficking.
Right.
Go ahead.
In the European Union, it doesn't even make any sense at all, because in some countries in the European Union, guns are allowed, and there's open borders.
Doesn't make any sense at all. So that's just opening up easy routes for criminals to go get guns and then sell them and distribute them through the black market.
Yeah, but in
Sounds
this,
like-
Well, I have to,
At the
I
same
have to
time-
say something. I have
Yeah.
to say something in this context, because I live in a country that really has an overall ban on anything but hunting stuff, And here it is actually quite a task to find a weapon, unless you're connected in a criminal way. It will probably take you some time to actually get a gun and bullets to go with it. And that is a thing actually for some people.
Awesome.
We nearly don't have any like shootings at all in a year.
The same here in the Netherlands, by the way. The restrictions here for weapons, and I'm not just talking about guns, but also stab and beating weapons. They are really restricted.
yeah,
Right?
but you don't. Yeah, but that is not actually effective, like Jack says, too, because the Dutch gun store owners are all on the border, a little over the border in Germany.
It's not even that, bro. You realize that I could make a zip gun right now in 10 minutes? I could make me a knife in a couple minutes.
But it's not just the guns, by the way. These
Yeah.
bans just don't work, because here you can legally sell weed, right? Well, in Germany you can't, but the border is open. So 85% of the weed is directly meant for the export. It's being sold in Belgium or in Germany. And because there's open borders.
Actually, like I said, I live like less than a mile from the German border, right?
It's almost as if they're trying to create a crime.
Well, and Belgium has fireworks legal. People here in the Netherlands get fireworks from Belgium, because like here only around New Year's you're allowed to sell it for like 3 days of the year. But people go to Belgium, you can get fireworks all year long in Belgium.
And even that they are banning, right? Those 3 days they are even banning now.
Yeah, so you just get them from Belgium entirely. Yeah.
Yeah, but the same with, like I said, I live less than a mile from the German border, and not that far from where I live is a coffee shop. The only things and the only people that you see in there are Germans, Belgium, and French people.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. The borders are open. There are no borders anymore. So actually, either you make everything criminal or you allow it all in the European countries. Otherwise, you have no solution. Like if I go to Eastern Europe, which are now part of the European Union, right? There are markets where you can just buy guns in public on the market, and other weapons like whatever, like tasers and stuff, right? Which is totally illegal here. So. Yeah.
And by the way, the same with gasoline prices here in Europe. It's also bullshit. Here in the Netherlands, there are gas stations that are already at €2 per liter.
That's over $3.
Yeah, I don't want to point anyone to anything, but if you go to Czech Republic, You go to the city of Prague, you have open markets where you can just buy weapons. You're saying.
How would you know that, Lovin?
Yeah. Because
I'm just asking. You don't have to answer.
I've been to places, Jack.
You know, it's
So have I.
I've been young.
it's
I'm an old grumpy man now.
It's the same thing with the gasoline. What I meant, you know, here in the Netherlands there are places where you already pay like €2 a liter. But if you go over the border to Germany or to Belgium, the prices are much lower. You know, so what stops people from going there instead of paying here a high price?
Yeah.
So yeah, some things should be regulated. Here in Europe, like European wise, you know. Yeah, also weapon restrictions and stuff like that. But
Well, I'm not in favor of disarming the people at all. Like,
no. But you know, it is or yes or no. Not in this country yes, and that country no, and that country maybe, and you know, it doesn't make sense at all. You know.
it's somehow like we have to believe that we are like animals or something that have to be like restrained because otherwise we start like mass murdering each other or something.
Yeah,
because
that's
we have guns.
exactly how they make it out too.
But
Like,
in the meantime, they who have the monopoly on violence are murdering people around the world.
yeah, like they're militarizing the police in America. You know,
Yeah.
but who commit some of the most violence in America? The fucking police.
Yeah,
By the way,
It's hilarious.
it is. But they kill innocent children in the Middle East, like with drones and stuff. Like, I don't know, but
You have to follow the money. You have to follow the money on this one. The police gets a lot of fucking money
Yes,
for
that's
this
exactly.
war on drugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
A war on drugs that will never be solved because, you know, the feds have actually been caught selling and distributing drugs. You know what I mean? So it's just a big monopoly. You know what I mean?
the government is the biggest drug pusher of them all. I mean,
Even legally.
That's
it is known that the CIA and everything are drug pushers.
Yeah, I was just going to put that in because the CIA has been, caught pushing drugs, and
Yeah, it's the
outside,
CIA. You're right, not the FBI.
it's not just the Americans, by the way. I mean, it happens here too.
Yeah,
Oh, I believe it. I've never looked into it though, so I can't really speak on such matters.
I mean, yeah. Here it already happened during World War One already. Even before that, we had the opium thing where they made China completely addicted to opium, and it was done by European imperial power.
I
back
think if people want to do drugs, you should just let them do fucking drugs.
or wasn't opium in China more like a cultural thing?
then. Yeah, it was made a cultural thing by the Dutch and the English, yeah. But it wasn't before that. Like we made it a cultural thing. We made them all hooked on opium. Like that's the thing. That's the thing. Western countries do. Like, do you know that there was a cocaine factory in Amsterdam, where now the Hells Angels are. There's the Hells Angels headquarters in Amsterdam. There was before they were there on this location. There was a cocaine factory, a Royal Dutch cocaine factory, and then during World War One, they were legally selling cocaine to all different sides involved in World War One. They were selling cocaine to the Germans, to the UK, to the Americans, and all the soldiers were hooked on cocaine, and it was all legal, and it was all Dutch cocaine. And they were given by the medics to the soldiers, and they were fighting all night long on it.
I believe it. There's probably some goddamn good coke too. Probably not cut with shit.
Yeah, you can look into it. And who are the shareholders of it?
It's actually not a secret. You will find all this in history books, but people tend to forget stuff really fast. But
I don't
all the
forget.
big wars were financed by narcotics. All the big ones.
Yeah, and this factory was owned by the Royal Dutch family even. So yeah.
Really?
I know that they even experimented with drugs, on soldiers in the Vietnam War, right? Giving people acid and all other kind of stuff to make them more aggressive.
Yeah, well, cocaine was banned at some point after World War One, but then they moved into amphetamines and stuff. But in Germany, they were very popular. Even people like Adolf Hitler, they use
Yes,
amphetamines to stay
super
awake.
Yeah.
They were Hitler's super meth.
Yeah.
Do you know that there was Germans that were frozen parts of their body and still fighting on that super meth?
Yeah, definitely. That's why they actually felt like the Ubermensch that they were told they were. They were stronger soldiers than the rest, right? Because they were drugged.
Hitler himself was on drugs. You know that, right?
Yeah.
His personal physician was giving him Pervitin, which is an amphetamine.
Yeah, in the
It's
19th century, they were still selling cough syrup that was just heroin, so it was heroin in it.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, it was heroin in cough syrup. Like, who the hell puts heroin in cough syrup?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, these people are crazy. Like, they made so much money on this stuff, and it was all legal, right? Till some point, they make it illegal, and they move just to the next market and the next market. Yeah, now they're into weed.
Well,
which is
you know why they pick amphetamines and heroin the most? It's because I forget, I don't know what it is for the amphetamine, but it's pretty much same for both ways. With opiates, once something gets binded to your opiate receptor, and then it's taken away, it creates a permanent chemical imbalance in the brain.
Yep.
Just after one time. So if you go to the hospital and they put you on morphine or any painkiller that's an opiate for that matter, you can instantaneously be hooked. And it really just depends person to person, really. It's not always true, but a lot of the time they have problems with just about everybody getting hooked on these opiates. And that's because it binds to the opiate receptor fully, and they can never get off of them.
That's why I think America was, really glad to go to Afghanistan because the poppy fields. That's the
Yeah. And the funny thing that you bring that up is right now we're currently in a war against opiates. And all it didn't stop the opiates from being sold. All it did was hike up the price by 3 times. That's all it did. And don't ask me how I know that.
Yeah, they just manufacture a way to put the price up.
So all they did was siphon the supply down, increase the price from the pharmaceutical company to the pharmacy, and from the pharmacy they spike the price up there, and then once the drug dealer gets it, or whoever sells it, the price goes up even more. So it's kind of like they got a little monopoly going of really high-priced opiates, which they started a war on, but never actually stopped getting sold.
And
kind of funny.
When people hear drugs, they always think about the illegal ones, but also think about the legal ones. I mean,
Yeah, like hydrogens.
For example, kids nowadays really quickly get that stamp ADHD, right?
Yes.
And those drugs they are getting for that condition that they quote unquote condition, right?
Yeah,
It's
condition.
pure drugs. It is speed.
Yeah. It's literally just meth in a pill. Like that's what Adderall is anyway. I don't know about all of them, like the off brands and all that, but Adderall, which was the most distributed one at one point in time, was basically just super meth in a pill.
Yeah, exactly. It is meth.
Yeah, no, it's 100% meth. It's just not cut with bullshit. So that's why, because you notice that people say, oh, they're not the same. Look at what it does to these crackheads and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because what the crackheads get is watered down with cut bullshit. But then then the Adderall is like this super meth that gets made in a fucking, by scientists in a lab. You know what I mean? So, of course, it's not going to have the same negative effects on the outside, but then people don't contemplate of the chemical imbalance going on in the mind once you start hyping these kids up on super fucking meth.
Exactly.
You know, and they wonder why Gen Z is so fucked off in the mind. It's because they did nothing but feed us, tons and tons of fucking pills. You know what I mean? And even if you weren't given the drugs, you know what I mean, from a doctor, the schools all throughout America, mine especially, I come from the fucking slums. They're full of drugs. You could go in the bathroom and buy some. You could buy some at the bus stop, even in middle school. You could buy Adderall. You could buy painkillers. You could buy some coke.
Yeah, well, we
Even
don't have,
all in the school.
we don't have Adderall in the Netherlands. We have Ritalin.
It's the same shit.
It's the same
is, yeah.
shit.
I've taken that too. It's the same shit. It does the exact same thing. The only difference might be less quality, maybe, or not.
But yeah, it's what you said. Like it's meth in a pill.
It's just meth in a fucking pill, and they feed it to children. They give it to everybody. It's just the pharmaceutical companies monopolizing the sale of drugs. That's all it is.
And they are basically drug pushers.
Yeah, they're no different than the big drug distributors in the streets. The only difference is they got it legally.
Yeah.
And they can sell massive quantities without ever worrying about trouble. Because they got some papers that nobody else can afford because there's some super companies with millions and billions of dollars, however much they have, I don't know.
So you're suggesting that we make drugs illegal?
Say that again?
Are you suggesting we make drugs illegal?
Illegal? Aren't they already illegal?
What is your solution to this drug thing then? To make it legal?
Yes. Just let people do drugs if they're going to do drugs. What difference does it make? All you're doing is creating more routes for crime.
Okay.
No matter what laws you make against it, just like the guns, you're not going to stop people from buying it. You're not going to stop people from distributing it. And you're just wasting people's money by trying to stop it. It's a literal waste of time.
Look at the Netherlands, right? We legalized cannabis, and the whole they swamped the whole market of cannabis, and so the illegal market has no money in it anymore because there is so much available already. Right?
Exactly.
You can go to a coffee shop and buy it legally.
And plus, normal people at stores aren't going to be going through communities trying to get every person they find on the streets addicted to it. They're not going to do that. It's not the same. They're not going to be loaded up with guns ready to kill somebody because they got a bunch of drugs in their house. Stuff like that.
Yep.
There's too many negatives, there's too many cons that outweigh the pros of making drugs legal. All it does is create ghettos and slums. I know. I've lived there.
I never did, so I can't speak about that. You know, I don't have any experience with that.
Where I come from, the crime rate is 70% higher for the city's size than anywhere else around it. This is recorded by the FBI. Remember I showed you, Lovey?
You did, yeah.
And the biggest issue where I came from was meth.
Yeah, that's a big issue in America, right?
Meth, amphetamines, and opiates.
And the thing is, it's also really dangerous to make it. So I hear.
If you don't make it in the proper lab environment, yes.
Yeah, it can be really dangerous because what I
In
hear is
Go ahead.
a lot of high explosive chemicals used.
There is. The neighborhood that I used to live in at one point in time, whenever I first moved to that city, actually had meth explosions about probably once or twice a month, right in my block. Oh yeah, it was so much fun.
Happy New Year!
And this random crackhead just walked into our house one day, and then my grandpa heard him walk in the house and quickly grabbed a fucking shotgun, right? And the dude goes out and he's like, "I was just trying to see if this dog was yours." That's what he said. That's what he said he was trying to do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's shit like that. People just walk into your fucking house in these places like that. So what are your fucking laws really doing to stop these slums from being created?
Wait,
You know what I mean?
you were in Texas, right?
Yes.
You still have the stand your ground law there, right?
Yeah, so we could have just shot his ass if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. You know.
Well, he actually did the right thing. So he actually did know the law. He very quickly went outside the fence before we even saw him. But we know he was in the house. So at that point, you really couldn't have shot him because he was already back out in the street. So if you would have shot him, he'd have been dead in the street. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
then the law wouldn't have applied.
Yeah, of course. Then
Then
you
you
have an
just
issue.
drag him all back into the
That's a good-
yard, dude.
That's a good point, Thor. That's a fair point. You could. You could call the meat wagon.
Oh, be like,
But yeah, basically, if he was in the house, you have every right
Mhm.
to the local law there to shoot him.
Well, if you also in Texas, if you have like no trespassing signs clearly stated, you're technically allowed to just shoot somebody as well for them trespassing like that, as long as you have enough of them. Now that could be kind of touchy because then you could be taken to court, but you know, because they could say, oh, there wasn't a sign in this exact location and blah blah blah. But I mean, dead man tells no tales.
But yeah,
That's what my grandpa used to say.
yeah. But yeah, you do get those that say trespassers will be shot on sight.
Mm-hmm.
So
oh, those signs do exist, right? I mean, I
you
think
can
I
buy a
saw
ton
them.
of them. You can order them online on Amazon. You can buy a ton if you want. But yeah,
Lovey, what do you
Yeah.
think about the laws against drugs? I'm curious.
It never helped in any way. That's the thing. Like, especially in America, you have the drugs completely into the criminal system. I think if you're actually dealing with people who are addicted to the drugs, you need it in the healthcare system and not in the criminal system. So,
Well,
Right.
the thing is, you know, how many Americans went to prison for just a stupid small amount of weed? You know.
Not even just that, if you get caught with meth, if you're just a user and you get caught with even a smidge of meth, you go to prison for 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, that doesn't help, you know, because often, you know, those
And then you
kids,
come out of
you know,
felon.
yeah, you come out of prison, and often it is like you come out of prison more criminal than when you went in.
It's almost like the creating a prison planet, right, Thor?
well, they also get money for this, yeah. That's
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
they
of
do.
the whole-
Because prisons are privatized.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Isn't it like a private institute, the prison system in America?
Yes, it's privatized, and also they can implement slave labor with no problem. They can make those prisoners, which are a lot of them are drug addicts, and not all of them I would even consider a criminal, really. And then they can make them do slave labor, doing all sorts of stuff, and it's completely legal. They don't pay them anything.
Basically, you are owned by them.
Yes, it's exactly it. Like
Sounds a lot
slaves.
like slavery, doesn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Thor, you cracked quite the puzzle.
Yeah. State
But yeah,
sanctioned slavery.
like I said, most people, you know, kids who go to prison for example, a little bit of weed, you know, they come out of prison more criminal than that they went in. And for what? For just experimenting with a little bit of weed, right?
Yeah, and actually, most places that wouldn't, on paper, be something you could put people in prison for because there's no victim, there's no real crime here. It's more like a parking ticket or whatever. But they made it into an industry to put people in jail, and the taxpayers are paying for this. And it's just a big racket, really.
It is just a big racket. And then you know what happens also? It creates the slums where they also can privatize and make dollars, through the pharmaceutical companies. It's kind of like it all goes around in one big circle, right?
And of course, what you create is, they come out of prison, they have criminal record, will not get a job. So what will they do?
Go commit crime,
Exactly,
which is what creates the slums.
exactly. So they actually are creating crime. They're not solving crime. They are creating crime. Right?
It's all big circle of never-ending madness.
But yeah, like I said, what you asked, Mark, about the war on drugs, it's one big joke. Like I said, like I said, they are supposedly fighting drugs, but the ones who doing it, the government, is the biggest drug pusher of them all.
Of course. Also, like the pharmaceuticals, they make all kinds of chemical drugs, which have like similar effects to many drugs we know. Like, yeah.
Like
Facts.
math.
And just for the record, they still give pep pills to American soldiers.
Really?
Yep. You can't fight desert wars day in and day out without having some kind of drug in your system.
That's a fair point. What's in the pep pill nowadays?
I think it's just like amphetamines again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's a good point.
But yeah, drugs and war, that's been like a problem, reaction, solution thing for quite some time. And yeah, even the medieval days, people were drunk on the battlefield. And then it went on to opium and imperialist Britain and the cocaine wars in Mexico and Latin America and yeah, heroin wars. And yeah, this is what it's about. Drug dealers and their big drug wars. We're just caught in the middle.
Just victims.
Yeah, like I said, I did read about some stuff that the government actually was experimenting in the Vietnam War with drugs on soldiers to make them more aggressive.
They were feeding people amphetamines during the whole fucking Vietnam War, and a lot of our war was about actually controlling opium production too, because that's where the main bulk of production was, and it was pretty much just about fucking drugs, the whole thing, But they be pepping people. They pepped people in the 60s, 70s, of course, but like back in World War One, and even like I said, on medieval battlefields, they gave people alcohol to keep it going. So you don't get wars without people on something,
Yeah, and of course, there is always war to gain something. If there's nothing to gain, they don't go to war, right?
Yeah, and the number one thing to gain nowadays is control of people's minds. And of course, that's what the drugs are for. So it's, yeah, like Jack said, a circle. Keeps on
Big
going.
old circle fucking jerk.
Yeah.
Yep.
With nothing but rabbit holes, confusion. And the overall reality is that, like, the details that can't really be understood or found out don't matter. It's just we know the problems, so.
And
Get
of
rid
course, wars also boost the weapon industry and
It's kind of like the entire world's economies are fueled by war, and it's been that way for centuries.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
be honest, weapon industry in America is, I think, one of the biggest revenues there, right?
Yes.
I mean, they make billions a year.
That's why it's so important for them to have the highest tech, and they make it very loud that they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons of mass destruction, weapons to kill, weapons to destroy entire cities. Like, do we really need weapons of such nature anyway? To just destroy entire cities? Is that really necessary?
I know that they were experimenting with EMP weapons as well. You know, where you can.
They had hundreds of megatons of nuclear weapons in design until the UN started talking about downsizing, and it went on to more strategic nuclear weapons like you have now, that would quote unquote just destroy a town, while back in the days it would destroy a whole country.
Do you really think that they downsized nuclear weapons? Maybe on paper, but in reality,
it's because of strategic things. If you're using bombs that are so big that you're kind of bombing yourself, it doesn't make a strategic sense, and that's kind of what he's alluding to. This big arm race that we used to have back in the days, where people had bombs that were so big that they can destroy the whole fucking planet. Nobody could ever use that weapon. But
no, it's just a big stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. They make them just to threat other people with them, but they will never use them because they know.
What the fuck is the point in having weapons that can crack the very globe in half? It makes no sense.
There will be no winners, right?
No. So it's basically in reality, it's just a big suicide race.
This is the snake biting its own tail. It's a classic, and
it is quite classic.
We're supposed to wake up, and notice that we're actually biting our own tail, but we still think that tail is the enemy, and we're fighting it.
Just like people really believe there's an arms race when they used to have bombs that could crack planet in half. There's no fucking arms race. It's just a monopoly.
Yeah, like I said, nowadays they are trying to develop ways to do the same effect to the people, but not harm the infrastructure.
That makes no fucking sense.
You know what I mean, right? Like the
they can automate the infrastructure anytime, so they just need the people out of the way, and that's kind of the whole problem here. We're too many people on the planet, and we're still growing and growing, and we're not actually using the resources in any effective way. We're throwing away half of what we produce, so it's a doomsday race, And now it's kind of, now some people have desperate measures against it, and
they predicted if the growing rate of humankind goes on like this, we will run out of food in X years, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole issue here. So it's a resource race, a resource war that we're not even being told about because it's such bad fucking news.
I don't understand why we gotta fight over it.
People always fight over something that gives them power. If it's food, or if it's money, or if it's whatever gives them advantage over other people, right?
Do you know what the snake is?
Yeah, we had this conversation again, and I'm not gonna do it all over again.
I'm just gonna explain something really simple. You have something called the reptilian complex. It's your instinct. And when push comes to shove, nothing from your mammalian complex will butt in. You will only go to pure instinct, survival instinct. And that's what's happening here. People are, becoming primitive. and they're using primitive things. And the snake will fight over scraps and be the king of scrap heap because
Be the
that's
king
what
scrap heap.
yeah, but that's kind of what the instinct tells you to do. But
That's not what it
you
tells
know,
me to do.
that's not your instinct. That's your mammalian complex. That's your higher intellect talking. Your
Right.
lower intellect just says kill everything and eat everything and fuck what's left, and you're the king.
Is that right?
Like I said, for example, imagine a scenario where water is running out. Those who having water will have power, right? And now, for example, it is food.
The funny thing is that the model we're pushing, the capitalist model, is the one that's wasting the most food. So you might actually argue that this whole capitalist thing is kind of a strategy to eat people out of their homes. You know, we're stealing their resources and just throwing them on the garbage pile. And what strategy is that? That is because you want to starve them. You know,
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Now, see-
war strategy.
It is a war strategy.
Yeah, that's what the whole thing is. A big war.
So the war is 24/7, 365 days a year, and never ends.
Unfortunately, that is the reality we now live in.
A never-ending, undying war.
And it's only
So-
getting worse
resource
because
war.
the population on Earth is growing. So it only gets worse, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, we could actually solve this many other ways, but this old school method seems to be the prevailing one. But yeah, I'm the one, or one of the ones suggesting that we actually turn this, and we start managing our resources, and you know.
And you could do that on the
we-
blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. We can make the whole thing efficient. We don't have to waste, and that
Would it-
will be enough to feed all these people. And there's another thing: we don't need to keep on, you know, becoming more and more people. What goes to show is that when we educate people to a certain level, they get less children. While third world countries they get like 20 children, we get 2 point whatever children, and that is just a fact. So if we keep on going in that direction, we can actually stabilize and stop, you know, us from overflowing the planet with people and manage our resources. It's doable. We're not on like a non-stop train to doom unless we make it that way.
Well, the thing is, for example, if you buy something in the shop, right? There is a date on the package, right? And it's not always an expiry date. It's often just
It's a sell-by date.
exactly.
Yeah, but that has to do with health and security stuff too. You know, you can't just blame that on. But at the end of the day, the consumer has to be the wiser part here. I don't throw away my milk because the number says something. I smell the milk
I don't
first.
either. Yes. I
Exactly.
agree.
Yeah.
If I open something and even if it's past that date, I smell if it's right. I look if it's right, and if it's right,
Yep.
eat it.
I agree. That's what we do where I live in my apartment. We actually don't even buy that much food because we check our food and make sure that, you know, it's okay to eat, and we don't just throw it away just because some numbers say some bullshit. We actually even go to a meat market.
Yeah, go ahead.
We go to a what's called, they refer to them as black market meat markets, but what they do is they go around and buy all this expired food. But the thing is, this expired food you could actually put in your freezer and freeze it, and then have it thawed out overnight, and it's perfectly fine to eat the next day. So
Exactly.
I'm
exactly.
eating
And
all
that's
this
what that
expired
one is.
food.
I've been
And you know-
dumpster diving for years. I
And
have
this
freezers.
food that, you know how cheap this
I have
this
freezers full of my whole house. I never pay for food at all. All my food is fucking free from freezers, no, from dumpsters all over this country. And we have such strict sell-by dates that yeah, you pick up the freshest food. You just throw it straight in your freezer. You have, meats and bread and everything you need for fucking weeks just by dumpster diving one time.
really.
You know?
You
Yeah,
know,
this is a sick place. I've been filming this in the past, but I can fill up truckloads full, more food than I could ever eat myself.
you know,
It's fucking ridiculous.
my mother told me when she was little, they had like these jars of jelly, right, for putting on your sandwich, right? And if there was a little bit of green fungus on it, they just took a spoon, take the fungus off, and eat the rest.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's kind of how we lived for like thousands of years until
Yeah, it is.
you came. Like,
Yeah. It doesn't mean that what's below the fungus is bad. It's just that fungus. Yeah, you can eat that. That's unhealthy. But what is beneath that doesn't mean it is bad, right? But nowadays we live in a wasting society, right? And
yeah,
not
like
even,
I said,
not even
it's
with,
kind
with
of the
just with
consumer's
food.
responsibility. But at the end of the day, when the media tells you that this is dangerous and this is dangerous and this is dangerous, people become paranoid. And at the end of the day, it's about this media reach thing. If everybody got 15 minutes on the microphone, the world would be a different place. Now you have a handful of people dictating to everyone, and that's what makes it.
Would you call
so
them gatekeepers, Thor?
Oh, gatekeeper.
But anyway, it's not just with food. It's also with equipment that we use. Nowadays, when television is broken, we throw it away and buy a new one.
Instead of fixing it.
Instead of fixing it, I remember back when I was young in the 80s. You don't throw away a television. You just buy the new compartments. And put them in, and television is like new again.
Do you know that they make it very difficult to do that these days, though?
Yeah, because we
It's
live
the whole-
in a throwaway and a wasting society.
Because it's
And things
anti-consumerism, is what they call it.
have designs to break. It's so-called planned obsolescence. In
Yes,
the
they do.
design, you make something that doesn't last more than such and such time, so you can keep on selling your product. It's so you secure your market.
And that is the key problem of capitalism.
Yeah.
Or actually, it's corporatism, is what it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that it's not capitalism; it is corporatism.
The capitalism never existed. It's made up. It's a fairy tale.
Yep.
It's a fairy tale that they told their children in school. In fact,
Well, whatever you want to call it, it's eating us.
you're right.
out
It
of
doesn't really
our-
matter what you call it.
We can call it ugly and unnecessary.
Yeah, that works. Thor gets the point.
But any system is doomed to fail. It doesn't matter if it's corporatism, slash capitalism, or if it's communism, or is it socialism.
Well,
Because-
don't you think we could make a system that actually functions?
I think we can. I think we can on the blockchain.
Yeah, I think we're becoming smart enough to actually make a functional world, as long as we, do away with those who want to take control. We try to make it more like a functional system than like.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think that we are ready yet for that, because, like you said, there is always there are always people who try to follow an alpha. First, that pattern has to be breached, right?
Well, here it comes, and here comes the whole problem. That's why everybody's looking for the perfect alpha. Can we create one? Can we give them the perfect messiah?
Oh Jesus! Don't start on that.
Yeah, you
Oh,
said you said.
I know that was the funny thing.
Oh my god! But you get it. The whole pre-made, to create the perfect being, and he will lead to that kind of stuff.
And there's so many different, and they've created so many different stories and fairy tales that now they can choose from an unlimited amount of routes to make this Messiah.
Yeah, but
people shouldn't just be a blind follower, but think for themselves and make decisions for themselves. Then we can maybe move on to a society where we all have equal saying in things, and we can work out things without even using violence, right?
so we're talking about a balance here. Just look at it. A teacher is technically an alpha, but it's teaching people. It's not taking control. The teacher wants to teach something. We need people who are teaching and not becoming crazy alpha, whatever. The correct kind of alpha would actually teach people to think for themselves.
Yeah.
I actually have the perfect prime example of a bad alpha. In my school, there was a teacher, and he very much so disliked me. I actually got this teacher fired, and he was never allowed to work as a teacher again, by the way, because of what he did. Now, he made fun of children, well, not even children, teens, because this was in high school. It was the Spanish teacher. He made fun of teens that harmed themselves, self-harm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he made fun of them, and he actually made fun of them so badly to the point of where one day this girl came and told me, because people told me everything when I was in school, believe it or not. And she came and told me that she hurt herself more because of Mr. Panter, because she said that she couldn't believe that somebody in such a position would make fun of her for it, instead of reporting it to the proper places. You know what I mean? How you should actually handle it. Send her to the counselor. No. Instead, this man, it made him feel real big when he made fun of people below him. And so, what I did was I gathered I gathered all these victims and got them to write a report. And he got fired, and he's never allowed to work as a teacher again. That is the prime example of what Thor was just discussing.
Actually, we did something similar. There was not a teacher who made fun of students, but we had a gym teacher. And what that pervert always did was he went into the girls' locker room when they were showering and just looking over the shower doors. If they are really showering, he said.
Oh, that's gross.
That's just perving, right?
No, that's disgusting. It was underage girls, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just revolting. Ew.
And we actually went to the director of the school and told him what he was doing, and he got fired.
I think everybody had like teachers sort of like this. I remember we had something similar where I went to school.
Actually,
yeah.
Oh, actually, what we did before because we did kind of a revenge action, because the first door in the shower room, there is where the fire hose is, and what we did, we hide in that first locker, right, in the first cabin, and we waited till he comes by and just put the fire hose on him. We actually did that. And so, of course, we had to go to the director. And then is where we told, like, yeah, he's perving on the girls, And we had, like, it was not just a few people, We had the whole class witness against him, because that's that's just wrong, right? What he was doing, that's just wrong. And yeah, we got him fired, and I don't think he ever teached again. You know.
You got any stories of that nature, Lobby?
No, not really. I'm just listening to you guys. I don't follow half of it at this point.
But yeah, that's an example for seeing something and doing something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was also something that we did, so you're not the only one that cryptic, who got a teacher fired.
Right.
Yeah, but the point was the whole alpha
Yes.
leader teacher
Yeah.
thing. So
No, Mad
How
Mom,
do
it is
we-
not a Chan talking.
Who does she think Chan is?
Probably you.
Why is it always me, bro? What the fuck?
Because you always be all cryptic about shit. No, it's not him, man.
I'm always assumed to be up no good or something for some reason. Or that I'm like some other nefarious person of sorts.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, but I told you you'd actually do fine on there.
Who are you talking to and what are you talking about?
No, I see Mad Mom just in the chat.
Yeah, let's see that.
She says Chan is cool.
Oh, so you thought I was cool.
We have, okay, guesswork. Okay, so we have Tad in from local leagues. We have Thor in, Anon Live, and we have Cryptic Jack in.
I'm just some guy
It's a jack of all trades.
of sorts, yes.
Shout out to Mad Mom.
And to Rob,
So do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes. How about we just answer questions from whoever's in the chat?
I did it once too. There was someone dropping out. I think it was AK dropping out. He disappeared off air. His connection failed or something. And I was answering questions from the chat for an hour. They were asking questions. So guys, girls, and you can just ask questions and we'll just answer them one by one.
Commander X question mark. What does that mean? Elaborate. What's your question?
You wanna have?
An update?
I guess it's for an update, Commander X. I have some updates though.
It's actually not a bad idea, to have this question and answering sessions in the show.
It would.
Okay, well, just going to give Dan Commander X updates.
Question mark court.
Yeah, the court case is the 20th of July. It will be live streamed. You can actually join the thing. We'll post the links a week or so before the court case. But you can just follow it live. But okay, so his lawyer says he is in good health and he has a fighting spirit. He is ready to fight all of this, and he's doing fine actually. He and his lawyer both asked to no longer do any fundraising for legal costs because everything is covered legally. There is an old fundraiser from the Friends of X. That money goes to taking care of his dogs and sending him some books in jail and maybe some other stuff he needs. About $300 is raised on that in the last 2 weeks or so, and $160 is spent out of that. Because it was a FET emergency with the animals, and so that cost us some money. A little bit has been spent on books sent on from Amazon to X. He recorded some video material that we'll talk about later, I guess. I still have to receive some material. About $1,000 is raised by others, by the way, but they're trying to transfer it to him through the prison system. It seems to be blocking funds, especially from people outside of the USA. That is a problem, but we will figure out a way to get it to him anyway. Well, so the court case is the 20th.
Send it to his lawyer. Send it to his lawyer instead.
Yeah, that would probably be the best thing to do. Yeah.
But so all the legal costs are covered for him.
Yeah, there was a request from X and his lawyer today to no longer raise any funds for legal costs because it's all covered.
Okay. Jay
Yeah,
Star
well, when you get-
asked Mexico made any statement about X?
I haven't seen any statement about X from Mexico.
When you get indicted by the state and you're prosecuted for something, you can choose to get a lawyer appointed and paid for. You don't have to pay for your own lawyer because it's on them because they're the ones trying to put you in jail. So everything is covered by the state in that context.
And yeah, the other fund, the friend of X, I donated to that too, and it is indeed for the dogs, any costs for the dogs, and also indeed for some books and stuff like what he needs in prison. So yeah, I donated to that too, because I consider X as a good friend, and I try to help him wherever he can, wherever I can, But let me see. Did I miss something?
So yeah, X is in good health and spirit and ready to fight. So
Well, I don't doubt, because X is and always was a fighter, right?
yeah, and he's lived on the streets and stuff. So he's used to roughing it, and I bet he's actually living more comfortable in the jail right now.
And he's also like a really vocal dude, If he needs something or he wants something, he's not afraid to say it,
Yeah. So I'm not worried about him in that context. He's probably getting stuff served to him by prison guards right now. So, but this bullshit court case and charge. I'm thinking we can beat that. Help him beat that by putting some focus on it. How stupid it is.
It is. It is stupid.
Yeah. So yeah, we can do a special on the whole background on and the actual details about this charge and what they want to get him for and what they've been using millions of taxpayer dollars for, something that silly. So
a question to Mark. Mark, if the live stream is done, if the talk is done, will you do a show to comment about it and give our thoughts about it?
Okay. Yeah, what I just gave about X is all I pretty much know, right? So.
No. I mean,
But I will give opinions after the show, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah.
No, I am in touch with his sister. We have a little legal group chat on an encrypted platform where his Mexican lawyer and stuff are in, and also his producer from the documentary and stuff, and
Natalia, I guess.
Nat is in there, yeah. So yeah. So we just get updates that they're just posting that stuff. But I know his lawyer is the best source. You can reach his lawyer. He's in Santa Cruz. The name of his lawyer is Jay Rorty. You can just reach him. But you have to be patient a bit because at this point he probably gets a lot of questions, but he will answer it to you. X got very lucky getting J. Rorty because, as he explained, they're randomly selected. Like, it is a state-appointed lawyer, right? And they're randomly selected. And sometimes you get a really fucked up lawyer who doesn't know anything. But this is actually a really, really experienced lawyer. And because I know Jay Liederman too, right? He's been on our show before, and I was actually asking Jay Liederman, like, are you going to like help defending X and stuff? And he said, like, yeah, well, he's got Jay Rorty assigned, which is actually, he's like the most lucky person ever, because that is like one of the best lawyers there is for this case, and he's for free.
Yeah,
Right?
he has a big profile. You know, I googled him before.
Yeah, and he's been dealing with like police abuse by the police and stuff, right? And he's defended some big, famous. I want to say criminals, no, some famous people. And
Well, I
his experience.
I hope they bring up also the fact that he was illegally arrested, right? Because of his refugee status in Mexico, and still they kind of extradited him to America, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we discussed that too. Like, apparently they used a trick using the DEA to get him out of Mexico. So, should look into that. Now, we did have Thor Eikeland, who is an Anon lawyer. He's in contact with Rorty too, to maybe perhaps help him with some specific tech advice he might need. Thor Eikeland actually, when he discussed with his ex's sister, actually said like, we need to argue complete innocence for Commander X, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Because it is up to them to even prove like the smallest thing.
I mean, what is illegal about helping homeless people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the matter of the technical illegal part, where it's actually just a system weakness, a flaw. He hasn't really done anything illegal. He did something legal too many times on top of each other. That's what a DDoS really is. It's not really doing anything other than pinging an address too many times. You know?
Yeah, what you said. It's like pressing F5 1,000 times.
Yeah. So they basically trying to punish him for exposing a system weakness. And that would be my defense, that this isn't really illegal. It's more like, gray area. And of course, it should be up to whoever, runs the website to make it, better.
And by the way, note, there is no damage done to the website at all. Not to the server, not to the website.
It simply just stops the traffic from other places coming in. You just take over. It's just like clogging up a mailbox, like physical mailbox. You put too many letters in, and nobody else can put their letter in. So how illegal is that really?
Or as I compare it with, you hire 1,000 people to sit on a public bus, so nobody else can sit on the bus.
Yeah, we went over this the last show. It's pretty much nothing. Then they have to charge him on, and they've been using millions of taxpayer dollars to get at it, using years. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can imagine that whole process of making a case against him and getting him to be arrested, that will cost a lot of money, and a lot of people worked on that. So yeah, that's a lot of tax money.
And that case has been active for many years, and all these people been working on it for all those hours put in also equate to money, and we're talking millions of taxpayer dollars, no doubt about it.
Yep. Money that they could actually spend into the homeless people who actually try to help, right?
Yeah, as an example.
So yeah, that's a waste of money. And indeed, like I said, the only thing that he was trying to do was help the homeless people, you know,
Yeah,
which is
and
actually a good cause.
and there's another thing too. You know, the police provoke them into doing something because the police, you know, put up spikes and they bulldoze these homeless tent towns and stuff like that, and force, you know, the homeless people, well, to other places. Of course, they couldn't go off the street, but you know, it was provoked. That is also, you know, something you should use to defend him with. But yeah.
Well, I think that's even more harmful what they were doing, you know, bulldozing those homeless camps and putting spikes up on. That's more harmful than what X did, just putting down a website. What to do?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It looks like something from Nazi Germany, and it shouldn't be that way at all. And yeah, that's not a way to solve a problem, making people into, you know, all enemies of the town or whatever. You know, it's like stupid. So at the end of the day, this is about activism, straight up. And you know, somebody who wanted to, you know, to make themselves heard in some way, and used a pretty mild way of protesting something, a DDoS against a website. And again, I think full acquittal on this one. You know, if I was his lawyer, I would just argue against, you know, um, the charge itself, which is such a silly thing. And of course argue that too much resources have already been spent in trying to put this person in prison for nothing.
Which also costs money. You know, if they actually put him in prison, that will also cost the taxpayers a lot of money.
Yeah, he's going to end up being a very long tab for the criminal justice system, and at the end of the day, the taxpayers. So, you know, this is kind of a public matter in that context. Do we want the police to keep on, you know, chasing these non-criminals and spending a lot of resources on them?
Exactly.
But yeah.
You know, it's like we didn't. He didn't even do anything. You know, like violent or anything. You know, it was just peaceful protesting what they were doing.
Yeah, no harm, no foul, I would say.
Yeah. So why is it so necessary to come down on him that hard? You know.
Because he represents something, you know. He's kind of like a rogue, you know, activist voice type thing, standing on his own, and they don't like that. It looks, yeah, it looks too powerful, I guess. So yeah, they just want to make him look like some petty criminal. And put him away. Yeah, it's kind of our job to do the opposite, make him look like what he is, an activist. So, any more questions from the audience?
You actually took the words out of my mouth. I just wanted to say that. Come on, don't be shy. Ask your questions.
I guess we're coming to the end of our session, so to speak.
Oh, and we don't have our end melody person here.
Yeah, well, you're going to sing. 1 second. Let me see what.
No. Rather not, because then we will lose all visitors, all viewers. If I start to sing.
And the question from Rob, is what got us all into activism? You guys can answer that one by one.
Well, that's a hard one, I guess.
I'll go last.
I just saw a lot of injustice growing up, and it was kind of natural. I've always been against injustice, and when I became an adult, I just started using more of my time in it. It's not one point where I became an activist. I grew up that way because of my mother. I have to give her some credit. So yeah, that's me.
Well, from my side, I don't make it a secret. I started out as a hacker, and the thing is, I saw that with my abilities, I could do something to make a difference in the world. And I don't do hacking anymore. I quit. I'm still an activist, of course, but not the hacking part anymore. But yeah, I saw that with just a keyboard and a computer, you can make a big difference by raising awareness on certain issues that the media completely ignores. Right?
Jack's turn.
Yes, I will answer too, guys.
Go.
Do you guys want me to answer it?
I wanted to go last.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I got really involved in activism in 2001, right after 9/11. So I started protesting at the International Court of Justice and asking attention for what was going on internationally with the war on terror. And after that, I met a lot of people that are involved with what we're doing right now. We are Change, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth after that. And yeah, I was into yeah, I should mention everything, but let's just say hacktivism was between 2005 and 2008, somewhere between there. But I am from the tech community, so to speak. So
It's like me.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how I grew up. So. But yeah, no, activism really since 2001, so that is now what, 20 years? Yeah, and I can only say that it only got worse in those 20 years. So.
Oh damn, we're getting old.
It's just sad. Like we only lost human rights. We didn't.
You're a bunch of boomers.
Yeah.
Generation X, right?
X marks the spot.
Well, we're actually different generations. I guess Lobby is a boomer.
Is he really a boomer?
I don't know. I actually know.
I don't know, Thor. You're older than me. I don't know.
You are older than him, Thor.
Well, I'm Generation X, but I'm the last part of Generation X. Everybody younger than me is the next one.
Well, I don't
I'm
make it a
born in-
secret. I'm from 1977, so yeah, I'm.
Yeah, I'm born in 79, and that's the last year of Generation X. If you're born in 80 up to 90, you're supposed to be a boomer as far as I know.
Gen X is from 41 to 56.
So what am I then? What's the 70s generation?
Generation X is from like 71 to 79.
A lot of places say different, though. I just googled
Well,
it.
Yeah.
Ouch!
I guess
Anyone
guess it
born
depends
from
on who you ask.
1981 and 1996, it does depend who you ask.
Wait. Mom, Mad Mom, ouch. You really think that Mark is late 40s and early 50s?
She seems pretty interested.
I think you have a fan
Late,
there.
late 40s, early 50s. Oh my god.
Oh,
Yeah.
that gonna hurt.
well, I'm talking about the actual one, and that's from the mid 60s, according to the research here, through the 70s to early 80s, as ending birth year. So, like 1980 is kind of the last Generation X birth year. So that's according to Wikipedia. We happy now?
So, Lubby is Gen Y.
I guess.
Yes. Well, I guess we skipped Y. Why not?
Why?
Exactly. This sounds like a question, and maybe they wanted to avoid people going around like, why?
Yeah. Generation Y? Question
Yeah,
mark.
no one does talk about Gen Y. No one gives a shit.
You know,
No, nobody cares
It's that-
about Generation Y.
it's like Generation Y? Question mark? You know. But yeah, you know, I don't make it a secret. I'm 44. I'm from 1977, so yeah, I'm old-ish.
Oh yeah, I forget. It's not the boomers are before us, and
Yeah, they are.
the millennials are the ones from the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then you have, Gen Z again.
Yes. Gen Z, the best one.
No,
Generation
that's the
something.
worst one.
Yeah,
That-
Generation
Is that
that-
right?
As
That's
I
the one who. That's the one who's not protesting against human rights right now, or the decline of human rights, or you get where I'm going.
yeah.
But did you ever think to ask why, or do you just bash them?
I just asked Generation Y.
Generation Z is more like
You know, I'm from Generation Z, and I created an entire militia, Thor, so...
Well,
What about that?
Do you have like a single member?
Not anymore, no. I told you that already, in fact, so I don't know why you're asking the same question.
I
Well,
think that
yeah.
Generation Z stopped caring. for some
They
reason.
did. And no one asks
think
why,
they
you
never
just bash
cared at
them
all.
like Thor here does. Even though you know
They
the
were
Gen Z
raised-
has the
on-
highest
on-
suicide rate to ever exist, nearly.
They were raised on television and lies and BS, and they never really, knew about the
And the
real
internet,
world.
of course, the
Yeah.
stupidity of internet, because you know, internet is big, of course, but Generation Z is more focused on the stupid side of internet, you know, like TikTok and yeah. Sorry, but anything coming from TikTok, you know, it's just a joke.
It's annoying, at least.
Yep. And I think they became insensitive, you know, for certain things, and just stop caring. You know.
Well, like I said, I don't think they ever got to caring, because that's kind of not how they were raised. They were raised to think about themselves. So they care about themselves.
So you sit there and claim that, but you realize that if you look at the data, they have the highest rates of suicide in a long time. So what about that for?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. People who tend to, focus on themselves are also people who.
So someone commits suicide, that means they're focused on themselves. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
To comment on Jade Star, yeah, 77 I think is the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac is snake, I think.
So
Yeah, that is correct. You're a snake. I'm a horse, according to the Chinese zodiac.
Oh yeah, we
No,
have
wait, I'm
to
a horse.
mention something. The protests on the Candles for Assange Twitter. You have to check that out. It's 54 cities. Go to Candles for Assange on Twitter. Julian Assange protests. 54 cities now.
Yeah, if you haven't put like your protest clothes on yet, now is the time, because everybody's coming out today and protesting. Thank you.
Which is a
You
good
can
thing.
just light the candle.
And in case you're wondering, I'm walking the stairs, so that's what you hear.
So yeah, don't forget to fire your politicians.
How did Gloria Jones that always said, spam your local politician, blah blah blah. I can't actually do it like she does.
You don't have to do all that. Just get them out of position. Just fire them. Much easier.
Be done.
Glory, if you're watching, come back. We need somebody for the end melody. I'm not gonna sing.
Why not? Why is no one singing?
I don't know. I can play the intro maybe.
Thor's always singing. He's in a never-ending opera.
A hungry man is an angry man. Is that Bob Marley or something? Get out and protest. We don't have time for this shit. You can sing on the street. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's time for Generation Z to stand up.